Good morning, everyone. Jim, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. It's Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. On my left is Commissioner Aaron Mays, who represents District 3, and on my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. I'm Bill Rippon, and I represent District 1. I think it looks like we have a lot of people here today, probably. How many of you are here to speak? Just a couple? Okay. I may move some of our administrative communications up so we can get people in and out of here, because we have a lot to discuss on our agenda, and I want to hold everybody up here. I do want to limit people to 3 minutes today. We just, in the interest of time, we have to keep things rolling today.
Mr. Chairman, if we might just note that there is no items on the agenda today to address any health orders, and today is not a public health meeting. So.
That is correct. We're not doing a health meeting today. Okay. All right. So do we have to vote to change the order of things?
Mr. Chairman, you have the ability to move the
Okay.
agenda items as you see fit.
All right. So if anybody'd like to speak at this time on any subject there, just remember we have a 3-minute limit. So anybody like to speak? Come up to the podium and give your name.
It's Ivy Legrone. When will you be having your next health meeting?
We will have a meeting. It's not a public health meeting, but Monday we're going to be discussing some health issues at that time.
Okay, I guess I was specifically coming to find out more about, in the newspaper it had talked about, sorry, I didn't know I was going to be speaking so quickly. I was eating something.
Did you bring enough for everyone?
I didn't, actually. But the newspaper had said that there had been proposals made to change how I don't know what you call it, how you're regulating the mask mandates. And so I was just wanting to know more about that. And so
I don't know of anything that we didn't have anything planned for that today.
Okay, so there isn't something on, like,
No.
in the near, okay, that's what I need you. Oh, and by the way, I know I put you all on the spot on Monday a little bit. You were good sports, and I really appreciated that when you had to answer on the spot, so, but thanks a lot.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Okay. All right. I guess while we're doing this, do we have?
Commissioner, I don't think they're understanding. This is administrative communications going on right now. So if all the people, all he did was he took the item that is normally at the end of the meeting, and he moved it to the very, very first item on the agenda. So anyone that was planning on speaking at the end of the meeting, because we're doing budget stuff, and we have all of our department heads out in the halls. We need them in here, so we don't want to just, have you go. So please, all the comments you wanted to speak, all the ones who want to speak now, please come and do it now. I mean, that's what it's for. We're just kind of turning our agenda upside down for the time being. So if you want to speak, that's the time.
About masks and about saying anything.
Anything.
You can
This is
speak whatever you
administrative
want.
Communications. You can speak it however you want to speak right now. You're welcome to speak now.
You can speak on any subject right now, but we just have to keep things moving along today.
But, you know, say, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm Leanne Vanderputten, and good morning, Commissioners. And I just wanted to, mine was a little longer than 3 minutes, so I'm just going to say, on Monday, Commissioner Kevin Cook said, I quote, "I think we have to look at the whole picture in public health. Anything we can do that can help protect public health, we should look at doing. And, we've done our research. Tammy Hunt, this is about masks. Tammy Hunt has the, the numbers that she has brought up is 0.01% have died from COVID, which means 99.99% have not. And with these, kind of numbers to mandate that everybody wear a mask, which is, we feel very much infringing on our rights. What if the governor mandated that nobody is allowed to wear a mask? I think that would be offensive also. And I just like to say, it's true, I don't have a degree. I have raised 11 healthy, thriving children into adults. I have 35 grandchildren, and my children are doing the same for them. We do our research, and all it takes sometimes is a little common sense to see the truth in all of this. It doesn't take a few letters after our name. We are not morons. We do not accept the status quo if the pieces of the puzzle do not fit, and they're not fitting. Our family and our community do all our shopping in Topeka. We eat at restaurants here. We bring a lot of business to this area. And I can say this, my family, my friends, our community, including mothers, fathers, business owners, pastors, laborers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, and a lot of people in this room are deeply offended that we are made to don a mask. This decision is forced upon us, this extreme breach of privacy and freedom by 3 men who sit on this board, and we don't feel it's right. As an aside, we would like to thank Commissioner Rippon for voting against the mandate and treating us like the intelligent American citizens that we are. We appreciate it. We are freedom, God-loving people. We are good citizens. We are Americans. We're proud to be Kansans. We will fight for what is right because we want our children, our grandchildren to live in the land of free. And freedom can be stripped from us very quickly. It begins somewhere, small increments, maybe even in the wearing of a mask. God bless you.
Anyone else?
Morning again, gentlemen. My name is Frankie Say again, owner of Abigail's Grill and Bar. I'm just here in representation of all the bar owners here in Topeka. There's a lot of things flying around, and I just wanted to be certain there wasn't anything on the agenda this morning that was going to directly address us. I know there's some other counties in Kansas that are making some unreasonable changes, and I'm just here to make sure that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in Shawnee County because it's not a thing that is helping in these other counties. I don't even understand why Wichita did what they did. It doesn't even make sense to me. So I just wanted to be here to remind you guys we are still paying attention. We are still following all the rules that have been put in place. I would like to discuss a couple of those rules that I don't feel are doing what it is the doctor wanted it to do. The hours was the first one, and then the counter service were the 2 main ones. It's not anything I think we're gonna really fight too hard today for, but it is something I want to bring up in the next week or 2. I kind of want to talk to the doctor directly about it. But that's pretty much it. Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, whenever, we
Give
talk.
us your name.
Oh, Billy Knoll, Breaker Sports Bar and Grill, sorry. When we had a discussion with the doctor to try to work to slow the spread of it. So we were under understanding as long as there was no major changes. Okay, there was a major change. We had this meeting on Sunday. There was a major change the very next day. So instead of getting everything in front of you guys, we tried to work with him. And we felt the right way, that was the right thing to do. So we did this in the mask change. So the closing at 11 and 12 o'clock by our bars is doing absolutely nothing. We're going to have the same amount of people in our bars at 11 and 12 o'clock that we would have at 1:30 in the morning. So I'm asking you guys to rethink this and look at it and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. She says the masks, those are our rights. If it is or if it isn't is not my discussion. It may help, it may not help. I don't know. But if it does help, how are you going to know if these hours are the thing that's changing it? You don't. So, in saying that, which one are you going to pull first? You're going to pull the mask order, or you're going to pull the time restriction? So, if you guys could just please rethink it. Please rethink it, because, you know, a lot of these businesses are losing a lot of money, and also the state, by not being open that other hour, hour and a half, if that makes any sense. So, just please rethink it is all we're asking.
The new order, it did away with that time period where you're supposed to be closed for deep cleaning or whatever. Is that still in there?
No, and that's another thing, like, no, sir, it's not in there. And that's another thing, like, that was one of the things that we tried to work with the doctor on, and all of a sudden, that got pulled away. But our hours stayed the same. But in a discussion, the doctor was saying basically he didn't want to do that, or he couldn't do that, but in all reality, that little time restriction in there during the daytime wasn't supposed to, it was supposed to stay in there. If that you know what I'm saying? It was supposed to stay in there. They say they can't change one thing, but they did change it, but left the hours the same. But we're going to have the same amount of people in our places. It's not like you have a whole flux capacity of different people walking through the doors. It's the same people for the last 7, 8 years. So if you come in our place, they probably look at you like, who are you? You know what I mean? I probably look now anyway because like you got your mask on. So. But I mean, the little time, the hour, hour and a half, it helps all the small businesses. So I mean, you could go through any of the major restaurants, for say. I'm not even going to say any of the major restaurants. You got hundreds and hundreds of different people coming in and out of that place, sitting in there with their mask off, eating, which is fine. You come in our place, it's the same 20 people, if that, that's in our building. So the time restriction that the doctor wanted, that we tried to work with him on, and actually I tried to get him to go to at least midnight, and he wasn't having it. But instead of having a full-blown out, not an argument, debate about it, we went ahead and tried it for 2 weeks. But we haven't heard anything else. So,
All right.
if you guys could please see if we can at least lift the time restriction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Hi, Commissioners. Tammy Hunt. Just one question for you today. When is there going to be a public health meeting?
Possibly next Thursday, I would say. I haven't set one yet.
Okay.
But we're trying to get through all of our budget.
Right,
And we're
right.
going all day and
I appreciate it, yes.
tons of meetings.
Appreciate your time that you
And I know
spend
when
doing
we
that.
have a health meeting, we're going to need plenty of time, so I'm probably looking at next Thursday, but don't
Okay.
hold me to that.
Would that be noted on your website?
Yes, it
Okay.
would be.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Anyone else like to speak at this time? All right. Okay. All right. Let's get on with the agenda then. So what's first?
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business, A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, this morning, we have vouchers that total $701,820.17. The highlights out of the voucher report, we have allocations to charitable organizations of $118,030. Under Bridge Project, Finney and Turnip Seed for $43,000, which is design service for Northwest Green Hills Road and over Half Day Creek, and then also Northwest 39th over Half Day Creek. We also have holding accounts with the state of Kansas, $109,387.91. Health insurance premiums of $101,408.45. I do not have any questions regarding the vouchers, would move for their approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, Motion carries 3-0. Next item,
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'd move that we approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B, Public Works. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-255-2020, amendment number 10 to contract C-272-2005 with Finney and Turnip Seed Transportation and Civil Engineering LLC to continue to provide engineering services and inspection documentation for the 2022 biennial bridge inventory and appraisal of rural secondary and off-road system bridges at a cost of $56,750, and ongoing bridge inspection and appraisal services not to exceed $10,000, with funding from the Public Works Special Bridge Fund account.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. This is our 2020 Bridge Inspection and Appraisal Report. This is required every 2 years. We've just received this, and what this report does is it tells me about the condition of our bridges in Shawnee County. We have 258 bridges in Shawnee County. 23 of those are either structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. This document tells me if I need to load restrict a bridge. It tells me the overall condition of the bridge through the sufficiency rating. And it guides me in, most importantly, it guides me and my department in how we prioritize our bridge replacements. So this is an important function of what Public Works does. And now it's time to think about 2022. So before you is my request to approve a contract with Finney and Turnip Seed for the 2022 bridge inspection and appraisal report. The $56,750 is a lump sum item. It covers the formal inspections and the report itself. And the $10,000, it's a not-to-exceed item, covers any requests that may occur between now and the 2022, that a request from Public Works to our contract provider to provide a special bridge inspection or to look into something unique. So with that before you, I'll take your questions.
Go ahead.
Well, my question is, if we've identified 23 bridges
Yes.
that are structurally deficient or functionally obsolete,
Mm-hmm.
why would we start until those have been addressed? I mean, it seems like if we've already identified which bridges need to be replaced, why wouldn't we just do that before getting another study?
Well, because number one, the study is required every 2 years, and number two, it's an ongoing process. Every year, as a minimum, we try to replace 2 bridges, and so this is something that it's an ongoing process. For example, right now we have 23 bridges identified. Those 23 bridges may or may not be on our 5-year CIP, for example, because not these bridges, even though they're functionally obsolete or structurally deficient, it does not mean they're unsafe. So again, we can't afford as a county to replace all 23 bridges in 5 years, so we do what we can. And then in 2022, when the new report comes out, we reevaluate, we reprioritize. So it's a never-ending process.
So these are, if I may, Mr. Chairman, so these reports, they're mandated by the federal government and the state, or?
Both. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question. Does this report cover pedestrian bridges, or is that a separate?
Well, the Public Works does not have any pedestrian bridges. I can only let Parks and Rec speak for themselves, but I think they have some pedestrian bridges that were also inspected as part of an addendum to the prior contract. I do not have that report in front of me, and so I would let Parks and Rec speak about pedestrian bridges.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So the bridge inspection, is that only for county roads, or does that cover the township roads as well?
It covers all bridges in Shawnee County outside the city limits of Topeka that are defined as a bridge, which has some geometric requirements to be defined as a bridge.
And do we provide a copy of that report to the townships that may have a bridge under their?
All county bridges, all bridge-size structure are the responsibility of Public Works to maintain.
But if we're looking at doing a bridge, if you have a township road, that they may look at changing from a 2-lane to a 4-lane. Obviously, you don't want to go from a 4-lane road to a 2-lane bridge back to a 4-lane road. And again, just using that as an example. So is there some coordination with the townships regarding the biennial bridge report?
Well, I don't know if the report has actually been provided to them, but obviously, when we do a bridge replacement, we interact with the township to get their input. There are no surprises.
Okay. I guess that's just my question, is what the interaction is between the townships that may have the responsibilities of the roads and the county that has responsibility of the bridges.
Yes.
Kurt, does the report spell out which bridges, like, does it prioritize the bridges for you, or, I mean, do we get it and say, like, okay, here are the ones, and then we just decide?
The report just summarizes what bridges are deficient. It notes that. It notes which bridges have a reduced load rating. It's up to the engineers in Public Works. It's called engineering judgment to go through the report and determine and prioritize which bridges we think should be replaced first.
Okay, thank you.
How often does the state require you to inspect the bridges?
Most of our bridges, I think all of our bridges, unless they may be scour critical, we have no fracture critical bridges in Shawnee County anymore, but the vast majority of our bridges are on a 2-year inspection cycle.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Kurt. Next item.
Item C, Stormont Vale Event Center, number 1, consider approval of request to award bid for the digital menu board screens as part of the Stormont Vale Event Center's renovations to SciTech in the amount of $34,272 from the furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Matt Rockers, Director of Operations, Spectre Venue Management, Stormont Vale Event Center. Today, we are requesting $34,272 from our FF&E budget for the purchase of 21 digital menu boards. These will be installed in our renovated and expanded concessions and point-of-sale areas. The low bidder on this item is SciTech Media, located here in Topeka. After this purchase, we'll have a remaining balance of $148,314.61 in our FF&E budget. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
How big are these?
65-inch.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do not.
I'll
No, but
move.
I appreciate you getting it from a local company as well.
Yes.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Matt. Next item.
Item D, Register of Deeds, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-256-2020 with Fiddler Technologies for Bastion and off-site server hosting subscription to give full access to the Fiddler recording system in the event of a server failure and at an installation cost of $5,000 with funding from the Register of Deeds Technology Fund and a quarterly cost of $5,250 to include image backup.
Good morning, Commissioners. Becky Neosi, Register of Deeds. This would give us full access to our Fiddler recording system in the event of an attack or failure with just an internet connection and a computer anywhere that we needed to. So after looking at this and consulting with our IT department, we determined this was the best product to not only give us redundancy of our system, but also security. There's a site in Iowa that these would be stored at, and there's a backup of the backup in New Jersey. So it would also free up server space here at the county and just give us a reassurance if the system should go down. Those people that rely on us would be back up and running in just a couple hours. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No.
Nope, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thank you,
Thank you.
Becky. Next.
Item E, Corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-257-2020 memorandum of understanding with the Heartland Regional Alcohol and Drug Assessment Center to provide assessment, care, coordination, and recovery coaching services to the clients of community corrections at a cost not to exceed $97,966 with funding from the state fiscal year 2021 behavioral health grant.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This is a community corrections item in which we are asking approval with a memorandum. This is a continued memorandum of agreement with Heartland Regional Alcohol and Drug Assessment Center to allow to provide services to our clients, that this money is funded through the Kansas Department of Corrections, and essentially we're the conduit that goes to this agency. This has been an ongoing relationship that allows us to help our clients to recover and to remain rest-free and to stay within our community. Been a very valuable relationship, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Questions?
I have none.
Nope.
Move for approval?
Second. Motion's made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item E2, consider approval of the following memorandum of understanding with Kansas Children's Service League for services during state fiscal year 2021 at no cost to Shawnee County. A, contract C-258-2020 to provide juvenile intake and assessment services. B, contract C-259-2020 to support school attendance at USD 501 for USD 501 students. And C, contract C-260-2020 to provide the OASIS program to support struggling families.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This again, and this item and the next item are all community corrections item. Much like the first one, that we have a memorandum agreement with the Kansas Children's Service League to provide services in 3 major areas. One for the juvenile intake service and helping kids getting back to school. And the other is helping troubled families with medication, crisis rehabilitation, plans for using community resources and services, weekly home visits, and things like that. Again, this has been a very valuable asset to our operation, a very successful part of our operation. And again, this is the grant funds that are provided by the Kansas Department of Corrections, and we're the conduit that gets to these, and we're the ones that go out and seek these services. Again, stand with any questions you may have.
Questions?
No.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item E3, consider approval of the following memorandum of understanding with the Boys and Girls Club of Topeka for services during the state fiscal year 2021 at no cost to Shawnee County. A, contract C-261-2020 to provide the Comprehensive Youth Development Program, and B, contract C-262-2020 to provide the Teen Center Program to assist in preparing for adulthood.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. Community corrections item again. This is a memorandum of understanding with our Boys and Girls Club that we have had for ongoing, that is for community youth development, which helps our young people develop by keeping them busy after school with programs, activities, mentoring, tutoring, structured athletics, etc. And then the second agreement would be for new programming targeting teens with programs to help transition to college and employment. And the workforce readiness, college readiness, and financial skills. Again, we are seeing that in our community corrections, that these are the things, are the high-risk areas that we see people that reoffend, and these are the programs that we have to get out in front of our clients to help them, hold them accountable, to get them involved in, but we have to be able to provide them opportunities. That's what this does with the Boys and Girls Clubs, allows us to meet our obligation and our commitment to the community and the clients we serve. Again, the funds come through grants through the Kansas Department of Corrections, and we're the conduit that goes to that. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next item.
Item F, Administrative Services, number 1, update on revenues and expenditures as of June 30, 2020.
Morning, Commissioners. Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. I'm here with our financial overview as of June 30 of this year. I will begin with revenues. Through June 30, we'd received revenues of $92,747,954. That is $3,152,000 under what was estimated. And this shows the different categories. I'll go through them category by category, and we'll discuss exactly where those variances are coming from. The first category is property tax. We received $79,522,931. That is $1,268,000 under what we had estimated or budgeted. And as you all know, we were expecting delinquencies to be higher because of COVID and people being out of work. So this is the result of that. Like I say, even though it was expected, that's what the number came in at. We have received, this was in the month of June, we received the second half of the property taxes. We will receive a little bit of property taxes the rest of the year for, delinquent ones that are paid. But this is the bulk of the property tax receipts for the year. Next is other tax revenue. We received $8,817,545. That is $469,000 under budget, and most of those were all in the vehicle type taxes and fees, and I really expect most of that will come back. If you have seen the hallway by the motor vehicle department on certain days, you will see, and I think this number will catch up with itself. I think we're just a little behind because of the COVID. The next is charges for services. We received $2,194,163. That is $900,000 under budget. That is the largest portion of that is Parks and Rec, which is $789,000 under budget. And we will talk about that more when we get to their expenses. Other revenue is the last category. We received $2,213,315. That is $513,000 under what was budgeted. And that is from investment income that is down. In fact, our investment income is down $1.2 million. So there were some other items that came in a little over budget that offset that. Because as you all know, once the Federal Reserve, they decreased their Fed funds rate to almost zero, so interest rates followed that. Okay, this is the pie chart that just shows the percentage on this, and so 86% of our revenues come from property taxes. Other taxes are 10%, charges for services are 2%, and other revenue is 2%. Next, we'll look at expenditures. Through June 30, our expenditures totaled $48,366,530. That is $3,143,000 under what we had budgeted. So our revenue is down, but so are our expenses. And this just shows the different categories, and we will go through those categories individually also. Law enforcement is our first category. We had spent or encumbered $24,613,225. That is $1,419,000 under budget, and the primary departments that had the large variances was the DOC, the sheriffs, and the courts, the district courts. Recreation, we had spent $7,631,861. That is $897,000 under budget, and that is primarily Parks and Recreation. For Public Works, we'd spent $4,560,744, and that is right on budget. And I will say this is just the general fund expenditures for Public Works. For Public Health, we spent $3,913,313, and that is right on budget because that is allocations that we pay out to the Health Department and then to other organizations. And then Administrative Services, we had spent $6,615,305. That is $857,000 under budget, and that is primarily from the contingency, which so far this year we have not had to make any large purchases, which I believe one's coming, but we have not had to date. And then also IT is under budget. Next is, the last one is debt service. This has not changed since last month. We had spent $1,032,082, and that is just for our first half of the year interest. So this chart just shows the different categories. And then here is our pie chart. 51% of our expenditures were for law enforcement. Recreation was 16%. Public Works 9%, and again, that's just the general fund portion. Public Health was 8%. Administrative Services 14%, and debt service 2%. So if I had to give you a takeaway from this, our revenues were down $3,152,000, which is 2.84%. Our expenses are down $3,143,000, which is 2.83%. So there's only an $8,600 difference there. So we are down on both. So our net right now, we're pretty much right on budget because both of those are down that go into the general fund. Now, whether that will stay at that, that mark, I don't know, but I do know that, as you all know, we do have some coronavirus relief fund money that should be reimbursing our COVID expenses, so that should help us for the remaining portion of the year. So hopefully we will be able to stay at this mark where our expenses are down by the same amount as our revenue. Do you have any questions?
Yes.
I don't know if it's so much a question, but I'm kind of surprised that Public Health is on budget for the year, because it really seems like they should be way over that.
And I should have explained that. This is for the general fund. So the only thing this is taking into effect are just the allocation that the general fund makes to Public Health. Public Health has, our health department has their own fund. So their expenses are all captured in that fund. This is just the allocation that we give to them from the general fund.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so we have a set amount that we give them. Their expenses, they do have extra expenses right now. And hopefully, a lot of those will be covered by different grants. I think there's at least 5 or 6 grants that they are trying to shuffle, what expenditure comes out of what grants. So we will, and we're working with them on that. But that's why this always shows it's on budget, because this is just the amount that we transfer to them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Betty. Next.
Item F2, discussion of capital improvement plan with continuation on July 30th if needed.
That date needs to be changed to the 27th.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This is for the discussion for our capital improvement plan. This is where we look out for the next 5 years on all of the capital improvement items that the departments would like you to consider. And what we do, this is for all of the funds of the county. We will go through them fund by fund so you can see those. This first slide, in fact, shows all of the requests for all of the different funds. And you can see by this that the capital outlay fund, what happened? Something's wrong there. There's something wrong there. It doesn't show the capital outlay fund, which is the largest one. I'm sorry, I don't know.
We have it here. It's 48.
Yes, you have it there.
48.7.
This chart that's showing up here is incorrect, but the most of them, of the requests, let's see, are for the capital outlay fund, and that is 48 million. The next tab shows the requests by department. And you'll notice Public Works has requests of $47,470,000, which is the largest in the request. Now, theirs come up there, and we'll see that as we get into the funds, but theirs are for multiple different sources. Some of it is from sales tax that's allocated to Public Works. Some of it is from federal exchange money, and some of it is partnerships with KDOT. So theirs have a lot of different sources, but their totals are 47 million. The next highest is Parks and Rec, which is 41,409,000 in requests. Okay, so we will start with the smaller, the funds that really don't affect the general fund, and kind of go through those. I will go through those briefly unless you have questions. The first one is the Solid Waste Fund. This is kind of what they have laid out for their fleet refresh for the next 5 years. You will see they total $6,917,000. I'll remind the public that this is all fee-based, so none of this comes from the general fund. And I think I would just say I would recommend that these be accepted unless you have any questions. And if you have any questions, we can address those.
No.
Questions?
I'm sorry, no?
No.
Okay. Okay, next we'll go on to the Public Works Fund. And this, you will see at the top, there are 3 different funds that I have designated there. The first one in blue is, the first one in blue, can you kind of scroll it down? There we go. Is the Special Highway, Bridge, and Machinery Fund. It's all in one fund. They do kind of, Public Works separates it out between, special bridge, special highway, and equipment, but it's all in one fund, so that's why I'm showing it as such here. Then in the pink is the Infrastructure Fund, and then in the green is the County Sales Tax Fund. They have listed, and I doubt that you want to go through these individually, but they have listed 8 culverts, 12 bridges, 4 road projects, and 11 equipment items, for a total of 35 items that they have on here. And this is what they have worked out as their plan to use all of these resources that they have. None of this money, except some of the equipment, they're asking for a split between the equipment fund and the capital outlay. But for everything else, these are monies that they already have allocated out, and they're from other sources other than general fund. So if you have any questions on any specific items, I'm sure Kurt can address those for you.
And Betty, again, that special project fund, which is not the sales tax, is carryover that's from leftover monies from the years past.
Yes, when at the end of the year, by statute, they can, there is a limitation, but they can transfer that into these funds and into this fund and then use it for these purposes.
So, and again, that's just sanctioned off, and just for the Commissioner Mays, I mean, I think this is a little bit different than how the other municipalities handle it, is that we do have that allocation specifically by statute for Public Works.
And I would also say, since I don't know that I said it at the beginning, this is a plan, and, this is the expected year that these expenditures would hit, and especially on some of these larger projects, I assume that there may be some shifting from one year to another, or, some things may have to get moved back or whatever. As we go through these, 2021, I think, as you approve these, 2021 is pretty much set for that year. But the out years, 2022 through 25, this is a plan. Those are not set in stone. And who knows, there may be something else that comes up that's a higher priority that becomes an emergency that has to be shifted around. So 2021 would be pretty much a set decision you're making, but the other years, it's just our best idea of when those would be. And each year, we will look at those and shift things as needed. So any questions on individual projects or any of the funds?
I don't see any.
Okay. So do I need to ask for them to approve them by fund? Can we do
I
that?
think if they want to do it.
Yeah, so
individually,
let's do by fund. So
each one.
so do you approve this plan for the Public Works funds?
I'll move for approval of the Public Works Fund.
I would second that.
Okay.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Okay, and do we need to go back and do that for the solid
Probably
waste?
so. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, the next one is the Sherwood Wastewater District Fund. You are familiar with this. These 5 projects total up to the $7 million, which has been borrowed, which we have an agreement to borrow as needed from KDHE. This just lays out the different projects and the years that they anticipate that those will be paid out.
Okay.
So
These are
do I
all-
have an approval for that one? Oh, and also, this is all paid from fees from the people that use these services.
Any questions?
No.
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
This is the Land Records Fund, and the only item requested is the Vehicle Replacement Program from the Appraiser's Office. I believe this is being done mostly by leases now. So do I have an approval for this one?
And Betty, this is the presentation that Steve Bauman had made several months ago about the condition of their vehicles and getting away from the vehicles that are well past their lifespan and really in bad condition in how they appear and
Yes.
condition.
And the Land Records Fund it ultimately comes from the fees that go into the Register of Deeds office, and then their fund, once it goes over a certain amount, then can be shared into this Land Records Fund. And our Register of Deeds, Becky Neosi, is very good with transferring all of that money that she can over into this fund that helps multiple departments.
And is that overseen by the Land Records Fund Committee?
Yes. And they actually make the decisions each year on what will be paid out of that for that next year.
And so if Mr. Bauman decides to lease Corvettes for their appraisers, they would probably discourage that.
Right, and also as a lease, it would have to come to you to be approved as an amendment to that lease also.
Okay. They don't need any special type vehicles. They need four-wheel drive or anything like that for this?
Don't know if Steve is here, and I don't know
Okay.
the answer to that.
All
I
right.
would assume it's a combination, but I don't know that.
My recollection from their presentation is they were going to need maybe some, but again, they were going through the leasing option on that.
Right.
Okay. All right.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, next is the Health Department fund. As we just talked about, the Health Department has their own fund. They are looking at probably in 2022, they will need to replace the roof on their building. And they are planning to pay for this out of their reserves. But since it's a project over $50,000, it needs to be included in this. So I would ask for approval of this project or this fund.
I move to approve.
I'll second, also noting that this was part of the discussion during the budget hearing.
Yes.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, the next are general fund budgets. These are just items that are projects over 50,000 that the department can, if they think they can absorb it out of their regular general fund budget. Since they're over 50,000, they're reported through this plan. The sheriff's office has 2 items that they believe they will be able to fund out of their general fund budget, and that are batteries and ballistic vests. Any questions on that one?
I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, the next one is our Parks and Rec fund. It is all in one fund, but they have, within that fund, they have it broken down between a 3R fund and building maintenance. So on that fund column, you will see how they have those broken down. The 3R fund is mostly cyclical maintenance and that type of thing. And you'll see that they have 9 projects in total, 8 of them within the 3R fund. I will just tell you that this fund also does receive some revenue. It receives all the revenues from federal lands. As part of our agreement with the federal government on those federal lands, they cannot go into the county's general fund. So those revenues, that would be for the Forbes, for the golf, the community center out there, for Felker Park, if they have tournaments and things like that at Felker Park, or any fees, those revenues go into this fund. They also transfer $525,000 a year from their general fund into this fund for use for these purposes, and then $30,000 a year goes into this fund from their revolving fund. At the time we were doing the golf cart paths out at Cypress Ridge, the revolving fund did not have enough money to do that, so we did it out of the building maintenance fund, and then they are paying that back over a period of years. So $30,000 also comes into this fund. So those are the revenue sources for this fund. They also generally, if they have budget at the end of the year, they many times come and ask to transfer that money into this fund also. So this is their plan of what they intend to spend out of this fund in the next 5 years. I'm sure if you have any questions on specific items, they would be able to answer them for you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Betty, when we get just a little bit, I think probably next slide or so, we get to our capital outlay and new debt.
Yeah.
A lot of that capital outlay and new debt is, when it comes to Parks and Rec, upkeep and deferred maintenance. Why are we not, how much funds do we have in the Parks and Rec building maintenance? Is this going to, the $75,000 going to completely deplete that? Are there other funds that they could use? And then also, just as a secondary item, since we did not take out the new debt in we have not yet taken out new debt in 2020.
Right.
If we do not, we had budgeted for debt service might we think about maybe using that money we have budgeted for debt service to go to deferred maintenance? Because I know that that's, when we get to our new debt and capital outlay, a lot of this is going to be Parks and Recreation.
Yes. It's my understanding, and Tim can, or any of them can correct me if it's wrong, but it's my understanding that the 3R is really more for cyclical maintenance, to ongoing routine maintenance. The deferred maintenance is more what they look at for capital outlay or projects, new projects too. Yeah, and in answer to your other question, well, let me cover this first. And you'll see these totals they have here. They have $250,000 in 2021, $375,000 in 2022, and so forth. They are transferring into this fund $555,000 each year, plus the revenues from these federal lands. So there is sufficient money, revenue, going into this fund to cover all of these expenses they have laid out here. As far as the balance in that account, I'm not certain what the balance is right now, but one of the things that we've done is on the Deer Creek Trail, that was one of the items that we were going to bond and will at some point in time. The items that we've had to pay for up to date, which I think were like almost $500,000 that was approved anyway, those items will have to be paid out of the building maintenance fund, and then when we bond it, it will be reimbursed into that fund. So the balance may be lower now than what the projects, that have come out of that really are. And I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know what the balance is in that fund right now. But it does have revenue going into this fund to cover all of these costs they have laid out here.
We had set aside money for the Parks and Rec master plan, or the Gage Park master plan, or that's been a discussion for 2 years, 3 years. And so is the 75,000 still a viable number, or is that high? Do we need to look at adjusting that?
Well, I don't know. Hopefully someone can address that. That is the request that they made.
Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department. I think that it is a viable number, although I do think that it's been so long that we'll probably need to revisit that total with the firms that we selected to do the process. We have still earmarked that money, and we have that money in reserve, or I don't want to say reserve, but we're holding that money. I don't know, I think it gets a little bit more complicated because the city was going to participate in that. I don't know what their situation is now or whether they're willing to do that.
Because we were looking at having the Discovery Center as well as maybe Civic Theater with Helen Hawker and the city of Topeka and Shawnee County, since we're the four. Obviously, the city and the county would be the two largest stakeholders.
Actually, the Parks for All Foundation was participating as well, and I think the city, the county, and Parks for All were really the three big contributors.
Okay.
So we don't know if the zoo would participate at this point? or the city?
I had some preliminary discussions earlier this year with City Manager Trout, discussing the Gage Park Master Plan, and I sent him all the information from when this came before this board, I believe in 2018, and they were seriously considering it at that time, but that was prior to the pandemic.
It's amazing how much change happens in that park in just a year or two.
Yeah.
And something we really need to do. So. Do we feel like these funds are sufficient?
Well, I mean, obviously, setting it aside and spending it are two different things. We would still have a presentation from Parks and Recreation regarding the master plan. There's still some discussion that maybe needs to be had. But we are earmarking $75,000 from the Parks and Rec building maintenance for a master plan, which would tie up that money from other uses.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I think the master plan is still needed for Gage Park. I mean, but again, our participants and who's going to be participating has yet to be determined.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, the next is the Stormont Vale Events Center Capital Outlay Fund. This is a fund that is funded by the general fund on a yearly basis. The last couple of years, we have not had to fund this because we have had some, when we changed management for the event center, we had some excess funds that we've been using for that purpose. And right now, we have right at 300,000 in that fund, and these excess monies that I was talking about from the changeover. So I was not going to recommend to you when we get to the budget, I was not going to recommend anything to be budgeted to go to this fund for 2021 because we have that 300,000 in there. Now, as you see, they have a project that would take all of that and more, and would not leave us anything for any capital repairs and things like that would come up. As you know, we own that building, so capital repairs are funded by the county and not by the management company. Just the minor cyclical repairs and that kind of thing, they cover that with all of their operating budget, but these are for capital items. I'll also mention the last item there, the chiller system for Landon and Exhibition Hall. We've had some discussions, and we think we might be able to fund a chiller. I think this is 2 chillers, and I think we might be able to fund one of those chillers as part of the renovation that we're doing out there right now. Because of our contingency monies that are left and that kind of thing, we think we might be able to do half of this through that. So this money would probably go down to about half. But like I say, this money, in order for them to spend this money, it would have to be budgeted in the year that it's budgeted out of the general fund and then transferred to this. So I don't know if Kellen is here. I don't see him to answer any questions. But- Oh, okay. Okay. And Matt was here. I don't know if he stayed.
He left, he stepped out.
Yeah, Matt, he just left a minute ago.
Yeah.
I had a question. I guess, I mean, I wasn't here for all this, but it seems odd that we wouldn't have put the roof replacement as part of the renovation. Seeing as how we're going to spend tens of millions of dollars on a renovation, why wouldn't we put a new roof on the place?
Well,
That's exactly the
and
same
we-
question I asked
Yes.
earlier this week, that
Yes,
we're
and-
spending $48 million on the event center, why is that not budgeted?
And I will give you the answer, my simple answer. Jim can give you more information if needed. At the time we were looking at the renovation, the roof did not need replaced. I mean, we started that and looking at that back in, 3 years ago, 2 years ago? And you'll see even now, it's not
5,
scheduled to need it till 2022. So at the time we started looking at this renovation and the time we were costing this out, the roof replacement was not necessary. So therefore, it was not part of it, because we were looking at mostly deferred maintenance and those kind of things to bring it up to where it needed to be. And it's still, and they have it slated for 2022. I don't know if it needs it in 2022, if it could go to 23 or 24. I don't know. Jim, do you have any more information?
Can I ask just a follow-up? I mean, and Jim, this is probably more of a question for you, since you're pretty involved with that project, but what's the plan with Exhibition Hall? I mean, we're doubling the size of it. Aren't they putting a new roof on it?
Yeah, the roof.
Or is there just going to be a duct tape line down the middle of the old roof to the new roof? I mean,
No, that would just be for the existing exhibition hall and a Landon Arena. Obviously, not any of the expansion has a brand new roof included with the expansion. So Yeah, what you see here, when the project was put together, and that was over 5 years ago, there was a long list of, I think, was the number 16 million or something like that in deferred maintenance. So there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and decisions had to be made as to, in order to fit the renovations into the budget that we had and the agreement that we had with the city of Topeka on allocation of the sales tax funds, certain items that now look like, well, why wouldn't you include in the renovations, were not included at that time because an assessment was made that we had more time to do that later down the road. Some of those are obviously other facilities like Ag Hall that were not, in Heritage Hall, that were not included within the renovations. Betty is correct. One of the things we are looking at is perhaps accelerating one of those chillers. We might have funds available based upon how the construction is proceeding that would allow us to go ahead and tackle one of those chillers now. We're trying to find, and one of the reasons why we would, obviously, that would be a new system that would be much more efficient than the existing system. So we are trying to prioritize spending on items that are either going to bring a return back to us in an investment in the building or to create efficiencies with how we operate. And that would be one of them that would do that. We're hoping, we still have our fingers crossed, things are going really well, and if they keep proceeding in that manner, then we may very well be back in here before the end of the year to move forward on that.
I don't know how much we have in the way of contingency funds on that project, but would there be enough for the roof for the Landon Exhibition Hall? That we have scheduled here in 2022.
Well, but didn't we plan on using the contingency for the add-ons for the things that we didn't have otherwise budgeted, which was the meeting room space, if we get to that, and banner boards and other amenities?
The roof was just not assessed to be needed at that time. That's all I can say about the roof. And that's something that they thought they had several more years with.
But Jim, didn't we, again, on the contingency funds, if we had left over, we were going to look at doing some of the add-ons?
Correct. When we bid the project, there were alternative pieces that could be added back in depending on how the funding went with the construction. And so far, we're looking pretty good at adding some of those in. We've actually had some preliminary meetings with McCown Gordon, our construction manager, and Kellen, and asked them to put together a list of what's possible. And I've asked Kellen to prioritize based upon those two items, what would give us the best return for our money invested and what would create efficiencies for how we operate those facilities. And so shortly, we will come back to the commission when we feel secure that we can spend that money and still stay within the construction budget. And we will get authority from the BCC to move forward on those pieces. And we'll set out what those pieces are.
Any other questions?
I'll move for approval. Oh, never mind. I withdraw my motion.
Well, you have many options on this. You could designate a certain dollar amount each year, and then we could see what projects could be done. This will be transferred to this, the money will be transferred to this fund to approve. There's also, when we do our next, a bond payment, and we'll talk about the debt service and any new debt, we'll talk about that. The chiller is something that could be bonded if you would want. So what I'm asking for on this is just out of this capital outlay fund. These others, they could be considered on the new debt as we get to it. It will be in the next fund. We could, kind of shift these requests to that. You could just approve a set amount to go into this fund each year, and then we address it as we can. So, or you can approve it as is. It's up to you. Just knowing that if you approve it as it is, then you will be adding this 340,000, or not that much, but some of it, you will be probably adding, I'm trying to think how much we would need for just regular repairs in there, but anything that we would need for this project plus the regular repairs, say we needed 50,000 for regular repairs, then you would have to budget $90,000 for 2021 to cover that on your general fund budget.
And Betty, that would then show up on our budget worksheet under
Yes.
capital, or Stormont Vale Event Center capital outlay.
Yes, that's correct.
And right now, we don't have anything budgeted for
Right now,
that.
yes, that's correct, because we had this 300,000, so I did not put anything on that, but that, I just want you to understand what you would be voting for.
Would it, can we leave the 300,000, I mean, again, not knowing what our cost estimates are going to be, because we haven't even went to get the cost estimates for the roof, for the foundation. I mean, we know that those are things that need to be done with Ag Hall, and the HVAC will need to be addressed.
And again, this is a plan.
Right.
This is, anything that is over $10,000 will come back to you for your approval anyway. This is just a plan. And I do believe we could change this 1,000,003 to probably, what, 650? Half of it?
Yes. And the number that has been quoted to replace one was actually
560?
Mhm. But it's good to
Yeah,
be higher than lower than necessary.
right.
I mean, we have the 300,000 already set
Yes.
aside,
Yes.
but that's not going to cover if equipment goes out or if they need equipment. I mean, that's covered by
No.
other,
That's right. Now, they could always come and ask for contingency money. That would be, if something is unexpected, a repair needs, they could always come to the commission, and if they don't have it in this fund here, they could always come to the commission and ask for contingency.
I mean, at this point, I mean, not knowing the whole budget, and, I mean, we haven't got to that whole budget discussion, which we'll do in a week or two, I guess, in the beginning of August. Wouldn't it be more prudent to maybe leave that as a zero, and then being able to look at maybe adding to the capital outlay for Stormont Vale Event Center when we have a total picture of the budget, rather than, because once we commit it here, we're going to be adjusting our overall budget.
Well, you will probably be adding for at least 40,000 to your 2021 budget, but that would be the only commitment you would be making at this point.
So if we just put 40,000 from 2021, that would then cover that expense.
Well, you'll want to approve the project here. If you want to cover that project of 340,000, then you would approve the whole 340,000 project here.
Okay.
It's just that we already have 300,000 that we could put towards it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. And then as
Say
far
that
as
right.
2022, 23, 24 go, we'll come to those years as we come to them.
Yeah.
So really, we're just committing to the 2021 for the repairs to Ag Hall.
Yes.
And then I would make that motion.
Well, second.
With the 340 total?
340 total.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And changing the chillers to 650,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, now we're coming to the hard part, which will be the capital outlay and the new debt. So before we get into that discussion, I have a chart here that shows you the new debt, the debt, our current debt, our existing debt, that will basically be falling off as payments are, last payments are made on that. And so I have, it shows you the general fund debt service on that top line over there by year. The second line shows you how that differs from the prior year. And then we can talk about kind of how much that represents in debt. So if we look at 2021, now that is, our debt service is decreasing by $619,000. That is about $7.7 million in debt for that debt, that amount of debt service would cover. That's at about 3% for 15 years. You'll see in 22, there's really not much change at all. In 2023, it goes down by almost $1 million, the debt service that we currently are obligated to. That at 3% would be about $12.5 million. The next year, it goes down another $2,394,000. That would be about $30 million in debt. And there again, that's at 3%. Now, who knows how long interest rates will stay low? You know, who knows if 3% is I think that's a conservative interest rate for right now. By 2024, it's anybody's guess what that rate will be. But this kind of shows you also, to remind you that $10 million in debt was approved in 2019. That can be issued anytime in the future. It has not been issued. It can be issued anytime in the future, and that was for Parks and Rec projects. It was for the Deer Creek Trail, which we will need to, we are obligated on that Deer Creek Trail to come up with the county's portion on that, which is about $1.5 million. That is an obligation that we have already committed to. And then the rest of it, at that point in time, the discussion was to go to Family Park out at 21st and Urish. That has not, it has been approved to issue it. It would have to come back to you for final approval before the bonds were ever issued and sold. But that is out there that we could move forward with at any time that you so choose.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Betty, on the Deer Creek Trail, we did get approval through bond council that we can come back, spend the money out of our general fund or contingency fund or, sorry.
No, we cannot spend it out of general fund and then reimburse it later. What we are spending it out of right now for the Deer Creek Trail is the building maintenance fund.
Okay.
And then we can reimburse that when we bond it.
Sure. But if we don't bond in 2020, that's not going to be an issue.
No,
we're
that
not
won't be a problem.
We're not obligated to borrow the $1.3 million for 2020.
That's correct.
So, but we would probably do that as part of a much larger bond. in the
Generally,
future.
yes, generally you want to lump as much together as you can and do one bond issue. That way it helps with selling the bonds. If you have a larger issue, there's more investors out there that, you know, are looking for the investment.
And originally, when that bond was approved by the Board of County Commission to look at going out to bond, again, not the bond itself, but
Yes,
looking to
right.
go out to bond, it included Deer Creek Trail as well as Family Park.
Right.
But I think that, you know, there was some discussion about whether it included other parks or how ambiguous it may be, but we may need to go back and revisit that at some point in the future if we're going to include Felker Park or Great Overland Station or
Yes.
Dornwood or any other.
And the approval that you gave was very broad for Parks and Rec improvements or facilities or something of that type. So it's a very broad description of what that can be issued on. There was also, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, there was also for 2020, since you had approved that bond, approved up to $10 million to be issued. We had budgeted for 2020 almost $300 $299,000. It was like 299,000, 298,000, something like that, just right, for interest only. We were looking at for 2020 if we issued that, we would pay interest only for 2020, and we had budgeted $299,000 to do that, for the interest for that. It looks like now I am not anticipating that we will issue that in 2020, so that money was budgeted for 2020, which will not need to be spent.
Which then could be allocated out to a different project.
It could be allocated to contingency, it could be allocated to a project, it could, you could do, either of those.
All right.
So, anyway, this just kind of gives you an idea of where our, and this would just be for the debt service payments out of the general fund. There are some other debt service payments that are made out of a few other funds, but this is just what would be paid.
Question. Looking at the chart and seeing how we really don't see that dramatic decrease until 2023.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendations for the board to consider as to when we should look at taking out debt?
Well, and some of it, depends on depending on how we issue the debt that's already out there. If we would issue the up to $10 million, say we had issued 800,000, this that's fallen off in 21 would pretty much cover most of that. Recommend waiting until 2023 to issue debt to where we have this debt service that is falling off to replace that. What we usually try to look at, or what I've tried to look at in the past, is looking and holding off on debt service or new debt projects until, so that we don't have to increase our budget significantly to cover that debt service.
But there may be deferred maintenance projects that can't wait till 2023. I mean, if you have if you have a roof on a building that's going to collapse, you can't say, well, we'll put a tarp over it for 3 more years.
And sometimes we look at doing a temp note for something like that, that can't wait for that short period of time, and then include it in what we bond. That is something you can also do, so that you're not going ahead and doing a lot of small bondings, which you usually don't get as good an interest rate on, because there's just not as many investors out there to buy the paper. So you can do a temp note for a year or 2 years. You usually don't want to go out more than 2 years, but you could do a temp note for a year or two, and then bond it when you do another bond issue.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's a lot of different options, but you just try to look at the most cost-effective option.
But the bottom line is you're going to have the ability to borrow more money in 2023 than you would have in 2021.
Well, you would have the opportunity to borrow it in 2021, as far as state limitations and things like that. But you would have to budget it, and it's going to be very hard to budget it and stay within the mill levy that you're wanting to stay within, which is really what it comes down to. And that's why we generally try to wait till there's some that is falling off to rebond, so that it doesn't affect your mill levy and your budget. Any other questions on this? Okay, now we get to the hard part. The next schedule, and this one is a really big one, and it's going to be kind of hard for you to see, and that's why you have your sheets in front of you. On this is for capital outlay requests and new debt. Now, these you will see on the capital outlay columns for 2021. There are requests of $19,143,301. Generally, in prior years, we have budgeted $2 million for the last few years for capital outlays for that year. So you can see there's quite a difference there. Another thing that I have done, if you see that, well, that column over to the left that's the different colors, and this one you see as blue and green. If you go clear up to the top, Jennifer, I have, the departments have prioritized these as they sent their budget requests in, with critical, high, sorted these requests, then all of the high ones, then all of the normal, and then the low. I thought, and this is the department's evaluation of this and how they set the priority. That does not mean that that is necessarily yours. You can ask them for, information on it. Most of all the departments, we ask them to talk about their capital outlay, or their capital outlay items in their budget hearings, so you had an opportunity to ask them those questions then, but that doesn't mean you can't ask them questions now, too. This one is going to be really hard. Like I say, we have 19 million for 2021 for 20 really big ticket items. Right now, the only items we're showing for new debt are 4 million for 2021, 6.3 for 22, and 2.5 for 23. You can also, if you so choose, if it's something that would fall within the parameters, you can move it that you anticipate. When you're looking at the new debt column for 2021, that $4 million that is requested, that is for the family park. So that, even though the debt was approved to be issued, the projects were not $1 million for 2021, $4 million for 2022 for that. And then Parks and Rec also for softball complex, and 1.1 million for Dornwood renovations. For 2023, 2.5 million for Helen Hawker Theater. So that's all we show under new debt. So you really have a lot of kind of options here. You can move years around if you prefer. You can move something back if you think it needs to. There again, other than 2021, this is a plan. This is not set in stone. It's a plan. It's in 2021, I would like to be, fairly concrete that this is what we plan to do for 2021. But that's going to be hard, taking $19 million of requests and narrowing it down to $2 million. Now, you can increase that $2 million, knowing that that also increases the amount of budget. And that will affect either the mill levy or it will affect the reserves that you use.
Betty, the ones that are prior to 2021, those were unfunded that?
No, those are ones that like the Deer Creek Trail project, that was just already approved in 2022.
Okay.
So, but it's part of this project. So I put it in that column prior to 2021, just so you know that that project is continuing, I guess is what I think it
Okay.
shows. But everything in prior to 2021 means it was approved. Anything that was not approved is not in that column.
No, Betty, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're not issuing that debt, then we have an extra $300,000 that was previously allocated for a debt.
Just for
Interest-only payment.
2020, not for 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we've done is there's the next, if we go to the next tab, there we go. What we've done is we've just blanked out all of these, everything on the years. As you approve something, we will put it into the years that you've approved it for, and then down at the bottom, it shows the total and how much, if you choose to stay at 2 million, then how much you have left. So that number down there that says 2 million all the way across, that will tell you if you decide to stay at the 2 million, that's how much you still have left to allocate for those years.
What's the latest on our elevators? I know we have,
The elevators, I believe that I am going to recommend comes to you real shortly, next week, and that would come out of contingency, or I am going to recommend that comes out of 2020 contingency.
okay.
Betty, can we, or Mr. Chairman, can we kind of go maybe through these, starting at the top?
Sure.
And just go through them, and maybe if there's questions, have them allocated, because I know that we've got a lot of our department heads here to answer any questions that may come up.
Yeah, okay, let's start with, the first one is the DA case management system of $500,000 for 2021, and he has that marked as critical. Don't see the, oh, there is someone here to speak to that, if you have a question on that.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
We can have Mr. Kitt come forward and...
Thank you, Commissioners. Charles Kidd, Chief of Staff at the DA's office. Did you have questions regarding this?
Well, I mean, the 500,000, I mean, I guess kind of tell us a little bit about that, what your expectations are. I know that our software that we're using in the DA's office has not been updated in quite some time, but just kind of what this project is.
Sure, Commissioner. Justware is the product that we use right now as our case management system. It was purchased and implemented in 2004, and I believe it's gone through one upgrade probably about 10 years ago. Letter that said that product, we actually got an end-of-life letter on that product saying that as of June of 21, it would no longer be supportable. We would no longer receive updates or security patches, that sort of thing. So as of June of next year, we will no longer have a working case management system in our office. So what we included in the capital outlay, once we received that letter, a pre-existing product or building one for our office, because of the COVID shutdown, we had a lot of difficulty in getting those bids before our budget was final. The one product that we included that was up to 500,000 was for Odyssey. That's what the courts are moving towards. So we went with the Odyssey because we thought it would interface well. And we had a quote available from Sedgwick County they shared with us for approximately 500,000. So that's where that number came from. In the last couple of weeks, we have received a quote for a product from Journal Technologies, which is who produce Ware, and so it'd be an upgraded system that they provide, and it's probably going to be about 340,000 total. And so far from the quotes that we've received, that's going to be the most realistic and probably not only cost-effective, but also something that would be an easy transition for our office because of the same. So the 500,000 is probably going to be more realistically about 350,000 is what we would be asking for.
So would we be able to, I mean, lower that from maybe 500 to 400, just put you in a spot where it comes in at 390?
Yeah, I think realistically, lowering it to 400,000 would cover what we would need to get done before June of next year.
Okay. And then why is, and again, maybe just kind of just touch on briefly that why this is critical to your operations of your office.
Sure. The case management system, and I think we've described that in the capital outlay request, really is the nerve center of the office, and are generated from it. So if an attorney wants to generate, we enter the fields for the charges that we want, and it generates all of those documents. So it cuts down on staff time, probably 75% if you were to just open a Word document and type up the charging complaint. So all of our legal documents are generated out of the case management system, and all of our historical records are managed through that. So if we need to pull up an active case or an old case, we simply put in the field that we're searching for, either case number or name of a witness, and we can access all of their contact information, all of their past history. So it's something that our attorneys and our legal assistants use all day, every day. And it really does greatly reduce the amount of staff that's needed to run an office with the numbers that we produce. You know, probably 2,500 to 3,500 criminal cases per year, probably at least triple that in traffic cases. So yeah, it's crucial that we have a case management system for tracking and also just for productivity.
Charles, you said that the courts use the same Odyssey software, or?
Yeah, the state of Kansas just recently decided to go to Odyssey. That's the product that they're going to. They currently, our courts use Full Court, but they're transferring to Odyssey. That's been delayed several times, and I believe they're looking to go to that in November. And I don't know if that will actually happen or not, but that was the latest deadline. So courts across Kansas will be moving to an Odyssey product. And we've looked at the prosecutor equivalent of Odyssey, but the numbers on that are going to be probably upwards of $500,000 or more for us to build a system from the ground up. And then it's a matter of, it doesn't have the same functions that we would have through the Journal Technologies product, and it would require all of our staff to be completely retrained from the ground up. And we would lose some of the control that we have on how we want our cases are managed, how our information is managed and stored. So in consulting with our IT department, the Journal Technologies not only would be a smoother transition, it's a cheaper product, and it would do everything that we need it to do.
Is this, oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask, what about old records? Would they transfer?
Yeah, and part of this quote that we received, they will transfer all of what we have under our current case management system into the new product. And that's one of the things that would make Journal technical information as well.
The cost of the $400,000, is that something that has to be paid all at one time, or can that be broke out into a number of years and spread out through a payment arrangement?
The $400,000, it's a one-time cost. It would include a one-time cost that would include professional services, implementation, conversion, license, maintenance, upgrades, and support. And they quoted about $255,000 for that. And then the licensing fees for each of our staff, to the extra cost comes from. So there would be most, if not all, of that due up front once the system goes online. I don't believe they would require it for us to start. And we are, I believe the DA mentioned this in his budget hearing, we're working with some of the larger offices in the state, Sedgwick County, Wyandotte County, Douglas County, to see, because I know Sedgwick County and Wyandotte County both utilize the same Justware product that we do. They're both looking at transitioning into the Journal Technologies, the e-prosecutor suite, which is the new product. And we're currently trying to engage to see if we can get a reduced cost for the three major offices all moving to that product at the same time. Since we all work with this, we'll all be working with the same court system through Odyssey. We're looking at ways we can reduce that in working with other offices.
Okay, thank you.
So did you say you have a quote in writing that's $340 now?
We have a preliminary cost proposal that was just provided to us.
Okay.
But it's just the preliminary cost proposal. They've not actually come in and looked at our system, but we believe this is going to be a good estimate for us.
Okay. 400, we could make it 375 and put 25 somewhere else.
We can lower that then to 375. And maybe this is a question for Betty, but do you want us to wait till we hear all proposals before we start making approval?
Well, that is, maybe what we do is go through the at least the critical and the high, and then you see if there's specific ones in the normal and the low you want to ask questions on.
But we
I don't know if you want to go, there are 63 requests. I don't know if you want to go through each one of them individually.
But
that's correct.
We have $19 million worth of requests.
That's correct.
So we're going to be 17 million short. I get my math that far. Yeah. Of people that are not going to be funded, but may have to be funded through bonds or other means.
Right.
So,
And I will also throw out there that we do not have to work completely through this today if that is the commission, if the commission wants to pick this up again at another commission meeting, we can do that also and finish it up.
for a preliminary capital outlay, new debt, I would move that we approve 375 for 2021 for the DA's case management.
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. All right, so.
Then the next one that's marked critical is checkpoint firewall replacements with IT. That is $50,000 for 2022 and $50,000 for 2024. Would you like to have Pat talk about that? Or I think we all know what a firewall is, but I don't know.
I think we've talked about it already, haven't we?
That's a 22?
Yes.
$50,000 for 2022 and $50,000 for 2024.
Okay, I see.
And I would make that motion for the 50,000 for 2022 and 2024.
I'll second that. Or say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
And the next one is for the sheriff's office, MDT, $165,000 in 2022. And I know that the sheriff is here, if you have any questions for him.
I am, and Dave, we actually removed that.
Oh, you removed it?
We did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can mark that one off. Ooh, I like that. That helps.
All right, that's made that easy.
Yes.
Betty, well, before we go on, though, while the sheriff's here, and I don't know, I mean, I know that I appreciate the sheriff being here, but I did have a question when we get down further on the sheriff's requests. I know that the sheriff has the forfeiture fund and the DA has a diversion fund, which are separate funds that they have available to them.
Right.
And I don't know if the sheriff, if you're able to speak to today used fund for or what it cannot be used for. Because I know there's a lot of rules when it comes to that fund.
Yes, there is a state guidelines there for equipment and training that limits what we can spend those monies on. Now, that's not a fund that replenishes itself very quickly, and so, but it is there for emergency situations and to tap into for training and equipment costs, so.
I mean, my understanding is that we have, maybe a little over 400,000-ish in our forfeiture fund, and when we look at something that your office might consider looking at, given that.
I wouldn't be opposed to trying to look at that, but we need to refurbish those vehicles yearly.
I agree.
So that fund would be depleted very quickly if we go that route, but if it becomes an emergency situation for funding, yes, that's something we can look at.
And I appreciate, as you said, it's not something that is going to expect it to replenish itself, and you don't know if it ever will replenish itself.
Correct.
It's here for now.
Yes. Yes.
And so as we come down, I know that you have in 675,000, but that's spread out over several years. Looking at, for 2021, 335,000, and so we might, not a lot of resources without taking on a whole lot of new debt.
Yes, and I understand that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
One other item that I should have mentioned to begin with, but I forgot at the time. Normally, we allocate part of that $2 million for smaller projects under the 50,000. You know, for smaller size or even the commission size. If we had a project that was 5,000 or 10,000, we would not have it in our budget to cover it. So generally, or what we have done, last year, we set aside 100,000 of the 2 million for those smaller projects. And then in December, or sometime before the end of the year, the departments could make their requests for those smaller capital outlay items that really wouldn't fit in their budget, but did not hit the $50,000 limit for this.
No. And we stopped, when COVID hit, we put a stop to a lot of those, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So the ones that we approved last year, how many of those, or how much of the additional expense didn't get done?
I don't know. A lot of them had already been started. So I don't know. I would say certainly less than half.
It was more than just those that we kind of stopped. The biggest items that really haven't gone through.
Here,
already.
sorry.
Sorry.
You got to come up here. Sorry. You have to introduce yourself.
Jennifer Sauer, Audit Finance. Sorry, we actually kind of put a pause on all capital outlay items, which included the small items and also the larger ones that hadn't already been started or had some progress on them. The largest items, I don't have any idea how much total is still undone. I would say probably about a third of the projects for sure are still not even started yet. Two large ones were the courtrooms, and I believe the courtrooms have said they're actually paused for at least another year on those, and those were $200,000 apiece.
Okay, shall we continue? Okay, the next one, I would say really the next few items under the high category are all from courts, and they're all for courtrooms. Courtroom 3G, 3E, 3F. Now, as Jennifer just mentioned, the courts have said they are not going to request anything for their courtrooms, or really for anything, for 2021. Because they recognize the financial, the economic situation we're in right now, and also they're having a real challenge on how to handle court with the pandemic and with social distancing and all of that. So they are not asking for anything for 2021. I would say item 111 down here, which is the audio-visual, that is something that, because of the pandemic, we have had to look at as an emergency COVID situation. Hope to have funding for, if not all of that, part of that, as part of our CARES Act money. So I would say at this point in time, I don't think there's anyone from courts here, I would say at this point in time, I would hold off on anything for that one, just till we see how much of it is, something that can be handled through the CARES Act money.
So, Betty, if I could make a motion then for the project 107, 108, 109 being funded in 2022 as requested, additionally, and allocating nothing for project 111 at this time.
A total of, what, over 700,000, almost 800,000, I think, in 2022. So that's going to be a lot of your 2 million
But-
for 2022.
If we were looking at, we had some money set aside in 2020 that we didn't do.
But that money that's set aside for 2020 will be used on those projects that were approved.
And-
These are additional projects.
Okay, so these are additional, these are not the courtrooms
No.
from 2020.
No.
They have to spread that out.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is it even possible to do 3 courtrooms in the same year? I mean, isn't the court system?
Well, and part of it is now they have kind of one floor plan, one construction plan they're using. And they wouldn't do them all at once. They would do, finish one at a time, but yes, 3 could be done in 1 year. And generally, it looks like by the price of this, one of them is a smaller courtroom, and then the other 2 are larger.
So not being familiar with these courtrooms, I guess, there's nobody from the courts here right now.
Well, I
was
don't
gonna
see
ask
her.
if they can prioritize in some way, but I mean, it seems like maybe doing one or two and then pushing another one back a year.
So
might be-
moving, so that would be a friendly amendment to do projects 3G and 3, projects 107 and 108 in 2022, and then moving project 109 to 2023.
I mean, again, I don't know which one is the highest priority. They're all listed together, so,
But move one of
I
them.
mean, I think it'd be,
Well,
it'd
there
be good if
again-
we could find out which
One
one
of
we
the big
prefer to
ones.
do first,
But
but
we may look at 2022 and 2022 and 2021.
Yeah, I was going to say, there again, this is a plan, and if we look at this again next year, they might change the priority to that, and that could easily be done at the time.
yeah, I think a phased approach is probably the best.
And that's
I mean,
what we have
Instead of all
been.
doing them all in 1 year and then nothing after that,
And-
it seems like maybe one a year or something would be good, 2 a year.
So that would be then.
So did you have a friendly amendment?
That is a friendly amendment to that.
Okay, I'd second that.
And you're just moving,
So this would be 107 and 108 would be in 22. 109 would be in 23, along with 110.
And then nothing for 111.
Right.
okay.
And that is the full motion.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Okay, the next is DOC roofing project at $1,000,001 for $500,000 for 21 and $600,000 for 22. I know that there are people here from the jail. If you have questions, I know we discussed this in the budget hearing, but if you want to hear more.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eve Kendall, Department of Corrections. The roofs that we currently have are original to the buildings through the phasing of the buildings being added onto. The original roof for the original building was in 1987, so I think it's lived its life. It's getting soft in areas. We're having stress points. We're having leaks. We're having leaks throughout the whole building, each of the annex. The addition and the Juvenile Detention Center. The 2-year phase is we're hoping to do the addition and the Juvenile Detention Center on one part, and then the main facility, the original facility, on the other. I'll stand for any questions or clarifications you might need.
Obviously, it sounds like the main facility is the #1 priority.
Yes, well, it depends on where the rain comes from, sir. We've been doing some patching and whatnot. We do have a lot of the old facility is, and I know that I have the old facility as the second year instead of the first year. But I was trying to get the majority of the people covered versus the, I guess, the area itself. I would love to be able to do all of it in 1 year, but I know that's not possible. The old side is probably a little bit more stressed, so I would probably change that a little bit and do the original building first, and then the Juvenile Detention Center and the addition.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Eve, is there any way that we might be able to make patches or otherwise Band-Aid this through 2023, and then looking at maybe as a plan in 2023, taking on new debt to do the whole project at one time? Or is that going to cause, that you delay it too long and you've caused yourself more damage?
Well, sir, I can tell you that with the recent rains that we just had, we have buckets in numerous areas.
Okay.
So and that's not even like we have a 5-tier, 5 floors. We have buckets on the second floor. So it's traveling throughout, which is some of our issue, And anyone that's dealt with leaking roofs or whatever, you know that it might be leaking over here, but it travels least resistance and drips over here. So we're doing our best currently. We've been patching for numerous years. We've actually had this in front of various commissions for several years, and it keeps being delayed and deferred. So we're getting to a critical area now. We're getting into sanitation issues, life safety issues as far as, puddles on the floor or whatever when we don't, because we have something new. So it's rising in our critical areas. We will do what we need to do, we always do. But we are really getting to a point that we need to have something done that's more permanent than putting some patchwork up.
This 500,000, is that fairly accurate, or do we?
That was a budgetary bid at the beginning of the year, when I knew that we would start looking at this. We would have to go in front, and we'd have to go back to our vendors and ask again.
Is this a membrane type roof, or?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 3 different pieces to the project, but you were going to do 2 at one time and 1 on its own. Would
Yes.
it be possible to split it into 3 years and do the main project first, and then the juvenile, and then is that possible, or?
Well,
Do you have any idea like what the difference would be in quotes?
Right. Currently, the main facility, the original facility, is the highest cost. It's the biggest area. And then the 2 smaller, the JDC and the addition, are the smaller areas. We will use the money to the best of our ability with what we can do with our vendor. If that means that we have to phase it out into 3 years, that's what we'll do. But we're going to make the best of whatever we get for this project.
I'd make a motion to set aside 500,000 in 2021 and 600,000 in 2022.
Yeah, it sounds like we're at a critical phase here. I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Okay, thank you, Eve.
Yes, sir. The other project that you had next to us, that is actually removed. That was from last year. But we can use that for the roof if you would like. Thank you, sir.
The radio replacement completely deleted?
The radio replacement is deleted for 21 and 22.
But not 23.
But not for 23.
Okay.
Could I just, real quick on the roofs, as you guys go through this process to get those quotes, could you, maybe next year when you come, have an idea of, like, if you split out those 2 other projects, what the difference we're looking at?
The two smaller roofs?
Yeah.
It's actually in our request this year.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I've closed my book. I thought I was done. Right now they're roughly 250,000 each.
Okay.
Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I just want to clarify, the 500 that is talked about was, and I certainly ain't going to be greedy by any means, but the 500,000 was what we're asking for the 2 smaller areas, correct? And then the 600 was for the larger part.
The 600 is for the original building, and then the 500 is for the.
So in following Commissioner Mays, what you're asking is that in next year, you're asking, could we split up the 500,000 into 2 different deals? Isn't that correct?
That is what I was asking.
Yeah,
And
so, so would we want to switch those? I mean, I take what I get, or, I'm not going to.
Yeah, I understand.
But which is more critical? I mean, which one is critical to life safety?
I would
and-
say the adult. That would be the larger one.
The original building, the 600.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, can we make a motion then to change that to 600,000 for 2021, 500,000 for 2022?
And then for our budget next year, we'll have the quotes to break out both of those if it can be done in 2 different years.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And then, Commissioners, I just might note, that puts us at $1 million already allocated. And then if you add in the extra 100,000 for small projects, we have 900,000 left.
So we had We had a motion in a second.
Yeah, oh, okay. Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. So that's $600,000 for
Okay.
2021.
And then the next item is the radio replacements that she was talking about. So 2021 would be 0, 2022 would be 0, and 2023 would be $114,200. This is something we have been trying to do on a annual basis, of trying to, keep replacing these radios as we go along, and so you don't have $1 million replacement all at one time.
So we're just looking at 2023 right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
unrelated to this particular item, going back to what you said, we only have 900,000 remaining. We've got the Deer Creek Trail project at $1 million for 2021.
But that'd be bonded money.
That will be bonded. It's shown here under capital outlay, but I would suggest that would be moved
Yeah.
over to debt service.
Okay.
That helps.
Betty?
Mm-hmm.
I might be confused, and if I am, I apologize, but the project that we put in was the extension from Robinson to Lake Shawnee.
Oh.
So this is in addition to,
Oh, I see.
to what we've already discussed. So this is a
not
new
the-
project.
This is not.
This is new.
Okay.
This would complete the trail all the way in, connect to the trails at Lake Shawnee.
Well, Tim, why would it say grant project then? I mean,
Well, I've already seen this
And maybe it was,
spreadsheet, so that's why I wanted to make sure. I could be wrong, but
I think you would probably apply for a grant using some.
how much is the Deer Creek Trail total? Wasn't it about $1.5 million?
I don't know the answer to that right off the top of my head. I know that what we're thinking around $700,000 that we're needing to.
That we're responsible for?
I believe so.
Oh, okay, well, okay,
I believe so. Right? Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think the original one doesn't show here because it was already approved, and this is only requests.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
But that brings us to the EOC's emergency warning.
Yes, outdoor warning siren sustainments of
And this is for-
$50,000 for 2021.
And this is for 2 sirens, I believe.
Morning, Commissioners. Aaron Mahan, Shawnee County Emergency Management. Yes, the request for the outdoor warning sustainment, we're continually looking at our overall outdoor warning system in order to not only improve coverage, but also hopefully add more, of course, as population, new housing projects, and everything else goes in. A lot of that also depends on new construction. That can block some of the sounds coming from some of those sirens, so we should continually, once again, try to reevaluate. The 2 sirens that we're requesting are what are called the 2001 models. They're the traditional looking ones, look like a great big bullhorn that's spinning a circle on top of a pole. They're more traditional. The sound carries further. It can go up to approximately 6,500 feet. People understand that sound more, they're more used to hearing it. It's a more consistent tone, and we can also still sound what we call the attack siren or the wavering sound on the first of the month if we need to. We use that for potential shelter-in-place for evacuations if it were to be a hazardous material situation or other incident. We did compare the cost. We have talked about the modular sirens before, like was just installed out at Cypress Ridge Golf Course, and there's one at Lake Shawnee as well as 2 others. They're kind of the pancake-style ones that look kind of like a stacked UFO. We can get 2 of the 2001 styles for the cost of 1 of the modulars. The price for these 2 also includes the attachment of solar power. That allows us to avoid an electrical meter fee as the solar panel continually charges the batteries, and then when the siren is activated, it uses the battery power, and then once the siren shuts off, it continues to charge again through those solar systems.
Aaron, will this get us caught up then, kind of for Well, as far as our coverage,
As far as we can tell, of course, it's extremely difficult to cover every single area, considering these are outdoor warning sirens, so we try to focus on those areas where people tend to congregate outside, whether it be recreational areas, schoolyards, places like that, where people would hear the sound and go inside, as they're not meant to be heard if you are in your house. We have identified a few locations where we do need to cover with an outdoor warning siren. However, I can say that we still have 4 warning sirens that were approved last year on capital improvement. However, we put those on hold right now, given we're not spending that money.
are all the sirens county-owned, city-owned any, or?
There are 2 that we do not own. There's one out in the Silver Lake area that they bought themselves, and then the one at the VA hospital we do not own.
Okay.
However, we do have the ability to sound those if needed.
So, you said there are 4 that were approved last year that were never purchased?
Correct. They have been put on hold by our vendor, and they're set aside for us when those capital improvement funds from last year are released. However, we were asked not to spend that money yet due to the current situation.
So, I guess so are these are in addition to then?
Correct.
Or, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And the 4 that were previously approved, though we do have set locations for those to improve coverage.
I'll move for approval of the 50,000.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is EOC renovations, and due to COVID, that has changed what we need to do on that, and so we will look at CARES Act money for any renovations that are needed for COVID-related items. So I would
Okay.
say you can take that item off.
Okay, good.
Betty, I'm putting those in unallocated for now.
Yes, okay. The next one is the courthouse corrections elevator. That, we do have sufficient money for that, so there's no request for future on that one.
And that's the inmate elevator.
That's the inmate elevator, yes. And then the next one, it'll be 97 is the project. It is the courthouse HVAC system. There again, we're looking at something for COVID on that, and so because of COVID, we've had to change that also. So I would say you can take that one off, and we will look and see what emergencies what we need to do for COVID on that, and what CARES Act will cover on that one. Okay, the next one is the courthouse steam traps and the air handling unit repairs and modernization. That is not something that is CARES Act related. That is $75,000 for 2021.
And if I recall, during the budget presentation, Mr. Kroll indicated those were original to the building in 1965.
Yes. Now, I will say, though, we are, for COVID, we are looking at several changes to make to our whole HVAC system. We are looking at UV light. Oh, he is here. I'll let him talk to you.
Morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. As Betty was saying, we're looking at ultraviolet lighting, bipolar ionization, increasing our filter capacity so it can catch smaller particulate matter, and then balancing the system so that we make sure we have the proper airflow to every area. And we're looking at that in conjunction with some of this COVID issues to just improve the overall indoor air quality here at the courthouse. The steam trap issue, they are original in the building. It's more energy than anything that we'd be saving. There would be some payback on all of that type of work. Did forward some information to you on the bipolar ionization that hopefully you guys have looked at. There's some payback on that as well. So any questions you might have?
If we do nothing with the steam traps, will they keep functioning, or are they?
Yeah, they'll function. What they tend to do is they leak by so that you don't capture all that steam and actually use it where you intend to use it in a heating coil. The steam will kind of blow by, and then it ends up heading back to your return system.
But doesn't that go to your energy efficiency in the cost of operating of the building?
Yes, it does. So it's something that really needs to be looked at, and it may not get that expensive. If we have to buy all new ones, it probably would, but those things are pretty much like a giant barrel, a big steel barrel. They're very thick. They've got some moving parts in them, but we may not have to replace them. We might be able to rebuild them.
By doing it, can't we expect a possible return of the investment in your energy costs?
We should get a return on investment if we had all of them rebuilt, probably within 2 or 3 years, would pay for itself in the energy. So it's one of those pay me now or pay me later type of propositions.
Do you want to hold off on that one until we hear some
Let's
more?
let's hold off till we hear some of these others, and
Okay.
we'll see where we're at.
Sounds good.
Okay. One other question.
Sure.
These steam traps, is there just one, or is there a number of them, or?
There's one on every air handler. There's a minimum of one. On some of the convector units underneath windows and things, there's usually smaller traps at each one of those locations.
So we have a number of these?
Yeah, they're all through the building.
Okay.
Every floor.
All right. So there's a possibility we could do some this year, maybe? and-
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, every little bit would help.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is ADA lever sets, or lever sets, whatever. And that, again, I think is something we're going to be looking at for COVID-related, so that you don't have to reach for a doorknob. So we're going to be looking for something that would be CARES Act related because it is COVID related. So would we be able to take all of this off? Or?
We should be able to, yeah.
Okay, so then let's delete 153 too, or also.
And then it shouldn't, in that 2022 50, would that be?
I think that was just to spread it over 2 years.
Could we do it all
But we're hoping
and
to
then
be
do
able
it?
to do it all
Okay, that's what I'm getting
now, so that we can do that benefit for, for the transmission of,
Okay.
eliminate the transmission of COVID.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next one, as I mentioned to you, is miscellaneous small capital outlay projects of $100,000 a year.
Move to approve $100,000 per year.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Okay. Jennifer, you want to take us down to the bottom and see where we are? Okay, so you have 875,000 left for 21 and for 845 for 2022.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is Nutanix Hyperconverged Infrastructure Platform Expansion.
That's Ms. Beck's favorite one to pronounce.
Yes, it is, and
It
that's
is.
IT, and it's showing 150,000 each year.
What is that?
We'll let Pat explain that one. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, I apologize for the terminology used there. Fundamentally, that is a platform that is a large computer that's capable of running instances, software instances that represent other servers that used to be built on hardware platforms themselves. So we take computers, take their function, and roll it into a program that runs on one giant computer. And that's a hyperconverged infrastructure platform. So it's a virtualization platform. And that's where we've moved pretty much all of the critical servers for Shawnee County all run on that platform. And that is an on-premises platform that's protected against failures in the outside world. So that's where we run our public safety servers and things that are of a very high criticality that we have to be able to get to. So that's our on-premises virtualization platform. as opposed to moving things to the cloud. So
I
if you have any
noticed
questions, I'd be happy to
this
answer.
is for the next 4 years. Is this?
Yes.
Is this for licensing, or is this new equipment, or what?
This is new equipment. In the past, over the last several decades, these systems were purchased as a large system that was sized to accommodate anticipated needs. Well, the lifetimes of those systems are relatively short. They only go for 5 to maybe 8 years, and it's really difficult to get a large system purchased and have it function for you for a long period of time. You always find out that you ran short. You didn't buy enough capacity. So you try to add to it, but then you realize you're near the end of the lifespan of that system. So you tear that one out and start over with a brand new one. This approach that we're taking here is a more modular approach. We're buying the capacity for the system in increments, kind of like a Lego block system. So we're breaking up the purchases of the system over the course of the next several years and going forward. The system is designed so that as the parts that we purchased long ago age out, we can prune them out without bringing the entire system down and plug on a new piece at the other side of the life cycle. So we're moving to that approach so that we don't have to have these large purchases that happen every 5 to 8 years where we spend $1.5 to $2 million to get the system in, and then find out, oh, we didn't size it properly 3 or 4 years later. This gives us much more flexibility on purchasing what we need when we need it, and allowing us to retire out the older components as they age out without bringing the entire system down. So that's the platform that we've embarked on for on-premises virtualization.
Okay. Any questions on that? I'm going to move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Where are we at on numbers here on?
700 or so.
700,000, I think, is what we have
Yeah,
left.
Okay.
and slightly less than that for 2022. Okay, the next one is the Deer Creek Trail project, which you said is the new portion?
Correct.
Did you have any more questions on that, other than what he had said earlier?
Betty, again, if we might consider that as part of, if we're looking at a bonding project for Parks and Recreation, having that as being part of the bonding project.
Yeah,
I
and
think so,
that
too.
could be moved over to one of the new debt columns, depending on what year you wanted to put that in?
Maybe for now, put it in 2021, new debt. Or 2022, I'm not sure
Yeah.
which, since we're gonna be doing the Deer Creek extension in 2021, and then 2020, I mean, that rest from Family Park to Lake Shawnee is gonna be going along 29th Street, which Kurt and his team have left us a spot along the side of 29th Street to do the trail. So it's just adding that trail to where we've left
Okay.
space.
If you would put it into 2021, keep in mind that the preliminary budget numbers I have given to each of you do not include any debt service for that $10 million for 2021. I'm just, so that would have to be an increase to the budget.
But if we take the 300,000, again, looking at that 300,000 that we had budgeted for 2020, if we don't put that to deferred maintenance, we could carry that 300,000 to 2021 for debt service for the 10 million.
Yes. We'd have to put it in a special project fund. Mhm.
That would cover it?
That would cover the
Your debt.
interest only for 1 year.
Okay.
So yes, on 10 million.
But, or in the alternative, if we did not borrow 10 million, if we borrowed 4 million in 2021 and then 6 million in 2022 or 23, again, looking at how you break that up.
Yes, but you also, I mean, your interest rate might be a little higher if you break it up, but yes, you can do that. I don't know that it would be substantially higher, but it could be a little higher, just because, it's not as competitive when they go to sell it.
Again, with the
But
intent
yes.
of trying to stay under our mill levy.
Yeah. Right. So is there a motion?
It'd be a motion to move that, I think it'd probably be more prudent to move that to 2022, given that you'll be doing the other part of Deer Creek in 2021.
And under the new debt?
Under new debt.
Okay.
Is that a motion then?
But it is motion.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. So that's just getting pushed to 22.
And under
Just to
the,
clarify on that, were we moving
no,
the
just
full
1
amount or
million.
just the 1 million?
Just 1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, the 496,000 was approved for 2020.
Okay, that was what I thought.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is ADA transition plan, and then and that's 150,000 in 2021. Going right along with that, but right below it is the ADA transition plan implementation. So that is Parks and Rec. I'll let them tell you about that.
And how much do we have left up there?
700,000, more or less.
Okay. Why don't we keep going and we can come back and
Okay.
review some
Well,
of it?
I actually, if we could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Just to touch on the ADA, because that's an issue that we have kicked down the road
Yeah.
several times. And I know that we're getting to a critical spot that if we do not address it, we're going to be opening ourselves up to quite a bit of liability. And I think this is, the
That-
transition plan is really going to be critical to address our deficiencies in ADA compliance.
That may be something that the county councilor would like to address also.
Jim Kraus, Shawnee County Councilor. Yeah, I'll just echo what Commissioner Cook said. We've been talking about this for the last few years and the need to do this. Even if we start with the plan, we're going to have the plan and the recommendations before we can spend any money. So even if we can just get started with the plan, I think that's something that you need to spend the money to save the money down the road, because if we do have an issue, it could be much more costly if we're not proactive about this issue.
And the plan is to go through each of the facilities and look at each facility, each park, every component that we have in Parks and Recreation, and identify what is not up to the ADA compliance.
Identify if there are any deficiencies that need to be corrected.
Does this plan, it wouldn't incorporate like the courthouse, the annex, or?
It could if we wanted to, but I think we've all, as we've discussed in the past, the critical piece we need to focus
Parks and
on
Rec.
at Parks and Recreation. And then if we want to expand from there, sure, but we think that's probably the critical place.
Okay, I would move for approval then for the plan.
Before I second.
Sure.
I'll second it, but I did have one more question. Are we pretty confident that 150,000 is what we need on this? Have we gotten bids on it or anything?
Or is it 75 in the same manner that we did 75 for the Gage Park master plan?
Or for the
And is
solid waste
Gage
plan?
Park master plan part of this? Are those two separate components?
Probably two separate, I would think, but Gage Park would certainly be included in the,
Well, Gage Park would be, Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation, but Gage Park would be included in the plan, in the study for sure, but we did receive a quote, I believe it was 2018, it was before I got here, and that was the price. So we'll need to bid it out again, but we think that's relatively close.
all right, any other questions?
Nope.
We have a motion on the table. Motion made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Okay, then the next one is the implementation of that plan.
I would make a motion to put that into 2022.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a full year to do the plan, probably, so.
Well, it's showing 500,000 each year for 22 through 25. 4 years there.
I'll make that motion then.
Okay. Tell me again what just to move it back, push it down 1 year
Make a
down the road.
motion then to have that in 2022 as requested.
22, 23, 24, and 25,
So
five,
that-
yeah, as it was requested.
If I may, that basically uses up everything else for 2022, is that correct?
Mhm.
I think so. Almost 200,000.
So, I mean, would it be?
Now, you can always go back,
Okay, because we've still got the sheriff's
isn't that right?
Yeah.
fleet
Back and-
coming up, and at this point, we're just, not gonna be able to do it. So I think it might be worth talking about that before we make any real decisions on
Well-
this. If we need to drop that 500 down to 300 to be able to make some of this work.
Let me also make a comment here. It's not in the critical or the high, but every year we give a certain amount of money, generally around 300,000, to Public Works to update their fleet. That's kind of a normal annual expense also. So that we haven't, that's down in the normal column that we haven't gotten to either. So I do want to just bring that one up, because that one is, they've got to keep their fleet up also.
So the sheriff fleet is already budgeted for. Then, or is,
The sheriff? No,
no,
it's coming up too.
okay.
No. No, it was just that you had mentioned the sheriff. We had talked about
Well,
the
because
sheriff.
it was the next item on here, basically, is what I'm.
Oh, yeah, it's the next item on here. The next item, though, is actually, so that was approved at 500,000 each year, is that
Well,
correct?
we
or-
had-
If we approve it for now,
Yeah.
Again, a motion and a second for now, and then looking at, again, we may come back to that, and this is not a final approval.
Until you approve the whole funds or whatever approval, then you can go back and make changes, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so do we want to vote on it now, and then we can come back?
Then you can come back to
Okay.
it if you want.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
The next item is done. That's the courthouse surveillance system. That one has been completed, so that one can come off of here. Then the one after that is the sheriff fleet refresh for $335,000 for 2021, $350 for 2022, $350 for 23, and $390 for 24. And then the next line item down is uplift and stripe new vehicles, and that one is just in 2021. So I think those, kind of go together.
I guess my question would be, why is the striping only in 2021 and not the rest of the? It seems like if we're buying new vehicles, it's gonna be an ongoing expense, isn't it?
Yes, they had figured out that all the vehicles don't require the striping because some of the vehicles are used in the detective division and command staff personnel, so they didn't require the extra money to outfit those.
Okay, good,
So-
thank you.
I don't know. Running out of money.
This is,
Quickly. Yes.
Oh, gee.
if we can hold maybe those two items for just a moment, and then
Go through some more
go
here.
through some more and then come back to it.
All right.
I recognize that they're necessaries, but
Okay, so that will take us clear through the critical and the high priorities. Do you want to continue to go through them one by one through the normal?
Well,
Or is there specific, and let me, before we do that, let me tell you of ones that you can mark off. COVID has changed a lot, and the DOC mental health for 1,000,003, COVID has changed what we probably will need to use that space for. It is, the use of that will probably, we are looking now at using that for a, more of a Zoom communication area for inmates to use to talk to their attorneys and such. So that is something we are looking for CARES Act money for. So I believe we can take that one off for now.
okay.
And then we mentioned it earlier a little bit, but the one down there, courthouse passenger elevator modernization, I am going to be coming to you requesting that one out of a contingency for 2020, just because we are to a very critical stage, critical place on those elevators that at one point we had all three of them down a week or so ago. So we are going to move forward on that one on an emergency basis, so I think you can take that one off also.
Betty, would that not be possible for the inmate elevator as well?
It's already funded.
Okay.
That one we took off. We already have funding for the inmate elevator. Oh, I guess.
For the title?
Okay, multipurpose conference room. I said a Zoom communication room, but multipurpose conference room. But I think it will be used for, yeah, for communicating electronically. So like I say, COVID kind of changed what we were looking to use that space for, so that's why that one can be taken off.
With the inmate processing,
I think we need to talk about that one. That is 11 million
Yes.
out of our $19 million.
Yeah. Okay. Brian or Eve, you want to talk about?
would that have, would COVID have any effect on?
More than likely not.
Okay.
The purpose of this is that we've talked for about the last 3 years regarding this issue, that the jail, when it was built and opened in 1988, Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections, and Eve will have to help me with this, but when the jail opened in 1988, it was built for about 280 inmates. The booking area and the Sally Port was built for smaller vehicles, which we've had to make renovations to even get buses in now for federal or state law enforcement. It is basically, what has happened is that area was built for such a small capacity in there that we've almost tripled our capacity in those areas. The booking area is becoming a very small area that we both have incoming and outgoing inmates in. We have confused our incoming and outgoing transport in there. The Sally Port is becoming very congested. If you put 2 or 3 vehicles in there with law enforcement, it's very overwhelming. And also, it is, we run into some certain problems because we have the same Sally Port that has to deal with juveniles and adults at the same time, and there are specific rules. So this has been a project that was asked of me, from a previous commission about the longevity of the physical plant of the jail. We looked at both inmate capacity, which we believe inmate beds we're fine with right now. But just like the inmate kitchen that was serving about 600, built for like 600 meals, we serve about 2,100 meals a day now. So we're looking at the same area with this. This is something that we've talked with Betty about possibly with the inmate processing in Sally Port. This would include our property classification to looking at maybe debt down the road and things like that. We know this is a big ticket item. But this is going to take a significant plan. We did use money in the past that was allowed for us to have a contractor. We did an RFQ to allow a company come in and was awarded to come in and start doing the plans for that area, which those things are done. And I want to, again, before we even go further, is to invite the commissioners individually to come over to provide you another set of plans to look at that and to actually see what we have. But This all goes into that we have basically outdated ourselves. The jail is 3 and 4 times bigger than what that area is, and it's becoming obsolete.
Betty, on that $11 million, the request, and again, we've drawn up plans and we've looked at it for a number of years. Not being able to use some of the COVID CARES Act money for it, and, I mean, we just don't have $11 million to allocate.
Well, my recommendation would, and I know this is moving something back that we've, been looking at for years, but I would suggest that we move this over to new debt for 23 or 24.
We would have to take up architectural plans initially.
Well, we pretty much have those. That has been already completed. Isn't that right? And we have those for several different configurations.
I'd move to have that as new debt in 23.
I'll second that. We're moving that to 20. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. So let me get that one moved over.
Okay, and then the next one is network distribution switch replacements from IT of $50,000 for 22 and $50,000 for 24. Do you want any explanation on that?
Yeah.
I'll move for approval.
Yes, I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next page.
Okay. Courthouse air conditioner unit replacements, $50,000 in 22 and $50,000 in 24. Can you go down and see where our totals are, Lawrence? And there again, if need be, you can move these instead of 22 and 24, you could move them to 23 and 25 if that, helps the numbers. That is at your discretion.
Bill, or is he here?
I don't think he left.
All right. Yeah, I would move that we move them to 23 and 25.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. This says IT. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought this was for the building.
IT. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
I thought courthouse air conditioning, and I just thought of
That's what I
facilities, but no, it's IT.
Okay,
I think it's their individual units to keep their server rooms
Yeah.
cool.
Pat O'Blander with the Information Technology Department again. These 2 air conditioning units are in our data center that's in the courthouse. And we're anticipating that we're going to have to replace both of them, but we're not thinking we'll replace both of them at the same time, and that's why we have 2 $500 or $50,000 allocations. We don't know for certain how long those will last, so we keep pushing them out into capital outlay. So as Betty suggested, I don't think it would be too much of a stretch if we did need to push those out further. We have been successful in keeping those maintained and finding parts for them as we need them, getting problems corrected. We've worked really closely with facilities and Bill Kroll, and for what we can see right now, we probably will be able to support those. But I do need something out there to eventually replace those when we get to the point where we cannot find replacement parts for them. So at some point, we've got to do it, but we're a little flexible right now on when that needs to happen. So if those do need to be pushed off another year, I think we'd be comfortable in doing that.
Are these AC units, this is different than just cooling a room, isn't it?
Well, it's cooling a room, but it's cooling a data center, which gives it a higher level of criticality. If both of those units fail, all of the computer equipment, the hyperconverged infrastructure, virtualization platforms, a lot of server racks, a lot of networking gear, all will overheat and have to be shut down, which will basically cripple the Shawnee County network, which is not a good thing. So they are very critical units, but again, if one fails, the other one can take the load until we get a replacement or a repair made on the other one. They are redundant, so.
How big are these rooms?
Let me also just make a comment there. This is also something that if one of these would fail, also could be handled as an emergency situation and he could come to us for contingency. So just another thought to throw out there.
All right. Anyone have any
I hold
questions?
off on those then for.
Okay.
Okay, stay here.
Okay.
The next one is fiber conduit for 12th Street, and I do want, Pat asked me if he should put this on or not because of our economic situation right now, and I said yes, I thought he should because I think it's a discussion you as a commission should hear and have in the back of your mind, especially for future projects.
Pat O'Blinder again. This is a project that it's an opportunity to get a fiber conduit put in during a construction project. The IT department has worked diligently to try to get in at the planning phase of street improvement projects because that's when the disturbances in the soil and the equipment is all in place, and that is the time to drop in a fiber conduit if you're going to do it. It's 10 times more expensive to come back and do it later. So this is an opportunity to get a fiber conduit in during the time that the 12th Street project is open from Topeka Boulevard to Topeka Avenue to Gage Boulevard, which is a very important corridor for not only Shawnee County but other entities that might want to use that fiber conduit. I do know that we've been working closely with the city of Topeka on getting this conduit put in. It would not surprise me at all that the city of Topeka would also run a fiber through that conduit at some point in the future to service buildings and locations that they need to get fiber to. I would anticipate that if this conduit was in and the county had put it in, that we would give that space to the city to use free of charge because that's something that they do for us in reciprocal situations. We have circuits that we use that the city of Topeka provides. So we would be participating with the city of Topeka on that. There are going to also be other entities that might be interested in using that same fiber path that could possibly share in the offsetting these costs that we would be putting into it. But the main point is, if we could get this fiber put in for $100,000 now, that would be a lot less expensive than trying to do it later when the construction project is finished.
In
So,
fact,
yes.
That would be an alternative to using dark fiber or other means to get this to Gage. I mean.
I'm sorry.
We have other ways that we're getting out to Gage Park right now.
Oh, yes, yes. We currently have fiber paths that we are using, and these are fiber paths that are provided by the city of Topeka and some through 501. But those are on strands that are limited in number. If one of those strands breaks or becomes unusable, we might not have the option of switching to a different spare. So we are on dark fiber currently, but it's a tenuous link that's a little bit fragile. So this would be a dedicated length and a dedicated path that we would put a large fiber in that had probably 98 fibers in it, which would provide lots of fallback for additional fibers that we might need them if we need them for fallback.
How much do we have left?
Now, something to consider, if we do not have to allocate the entire $100,000, just if whatever we could put in would be helpful in getting that fiber in. Maybe we won't be able to go the entire distance, but whatever we can put in would be a great savings over what it would cost to do later.
Commissioner Mays, do you recall when exactly the city's going to be doing 12th Street?
The plans are already done, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're doing utilities this year.
Mark Price with Shawnee County. I've sat in on the build meetings. In 2021, they're doing the first phase. It's a phased over 4 years. They're starting at the Kansas end, working towards Gage. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact breakdown, but I think a majority of 2021 will be actually utility rearrangement, and then they'll start working on pavement after that.
What phase would the fiber optics go in? Would they need it by 2021, or are they doing so much a year, or?
This is an assumption, but I honestly wouldn't know that it would be a 2021 item. Part of this is just working with the city, and because I know their traffic is looking at doing their data is looking at doing some fibers, trying to see if the funding's there to help do this as a kind of coordination between the three entities.
I would think that it'd make more sense to put it in during the utility relocation phase.
And is what you're needing right now a definite funding source so that you can go to the city with a definite source of funding? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd move to approve that.
Second.
I just thought that was a real important discussion to have, because ongoing projects, I think we need to be looking at this every time one of these major, roads or streets or whatever comes up, because he said it in the long run does save us a lot of money.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Okay, the next one is the family park facility. $75,000 was approved for 2020, or I think it was 2019 or 2020, one of the two. 19, okay, for the plans. And then they're showing $4 million in 2021 and $4 million in 22 from the new debt. Do you want to hear any discussion on that?
Well, and Commissioner Rippon, we were talking during the Parks and Rec budget hearing whether or not we would be looking at $4 million for, what the family park would look like if we were going to do pickleball all at Family Park, or if we're going to break it up maybe a little bit and move some of it over to maybe Felker, or.
A lot of that will probably come out in the plan, I would
Yeah, that's
imagine,
what I'm
the
thinking.
master
too.
plan.
Once we get the master plan, we'll probably have a better idea.
I think we'll have a good understanding of where it's going.
And there again, this is a plan.
It's a
I mean,
plan.
anything would have to come back to you for any concrete.
So is that, again, new debt then would be in 2021?
The way, well, this would anticipate that it would be.
New debt for $4 million in 2021 and $4 million in 2022? Knowing that it would cover more than just Family Park. I mean, it's.
Well, what we were originally looking at, that it was going to be the Deer Creek Trail and Family Park, and that was primarily it, but
It could
that doesn't mean
expand.
that
I
can't
mean,
change too.
It's written fairly vague,
It is, it's very broad, yes.
so that could change.
I'm sure it will change.
Yeah, probably so. I'd move to approve what's planned here.
Okay. I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Let me just mention that we are about 10 minutes till 12, and I know we do have a Spark Committee meeting at 12 o'clock that the Commissioner Rippon is included in. If you would like to continue, I am fine with that, but I wanted to just bring the time to your attention, and if you would like to pick this up later, we can do that too.
We
So-
can pick this up Monday, if
Okay.
Well, we only have a couple more in 2021.
All right, you want to finish 21?
Yeah, if we
Okay.
could just finish 21,
Okay.
Okay.
and then picking up anything for future years.
Okay, so we have park maintenance equipment replacement, 400 for 21, 23, and 25. Equipment, parks equipment, I don't know that if that would be eligible for bonding. I don't know that it would have a long enough life. It might, I don't know.
No,
I just don't know.
Is this going to be?
It would need to have a 10-year life, and I just don't know if that would or not.
Our current bucket truck is 1995.
Okay,
But this would be the bucket truck and other equipment like that.
okay. Oh, if it's a truck, then no, it would not qualify for bonding. No, I was thinking more playground equipment, okay. Okay, so no, it would not be eligible for bonding.
Okay.
I would move that we set aside, 200,000 initially for replacement.
For just 21, or
Just
for 21,
Just,
23,
again,
and 25?
Replacement of, what are we,
This is the bucket truck and the equipment that Tim outlined during his budget hearing.
okay.
So are you
For-
keeping
for
the
twen-
other two at 400, or the other
Yes,
two at
keep
2?
keep the other two at 400.
Okay.
So that was a motion?
Yeah, I'm thinking here.
I'm looking down, we haven't got to Public Works equipment
Yeah.
that Kurt,
We want to hold off till we get,
Okay.
again,
Then the-
looking at, and again, that's a motion for just 200,000 for this. We have roughly 600,000 left.
yeah, we can go to, I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. So we got 200 just in
Okay.
21.
And then I am just going to skip on
And
down to the
400.
ones that have something for 2021.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is park renovations, 5 to 8 parks, $1.4 million each year.
That's some of that could possibly be bonded even.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look on down here.
Okay, the next one is saloon at Old Prairie Town.
I'd like to hold on that project altogether with the acquisition of the Great Overland Station until we know a little bit more about how the Great Overland Station will factor in with the operations at Ward Mead.
Or can we just move it down, shift it down a year? Then we'll know more after that.
Sure.
Why don't we do that? Let's just shift it. I guess I'd need a motion for that.
Motion to have 2022, 500,000, 2023, 500,000.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Okay, the next one that has 2021 is number 149, Lake Shawnee Market Feasibility and Configuration, 42.5 in 21 and 100,000 in 24.
I'm not sure what this one is.
Yeah.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation. If I'm looking at the right thing, I know this was part of the Adventure Cove project and the discussion about doing zip lines and different things at Lake Shawnee. I think that feasibility study, anyway, is that portion of it. And that's a project being pushed by a member of our advisory board.
Can I interject? I think, didn't we have a little problem getting some insurance for our zip line before? I thought we had
Well, it might be something else other than a zip line. I think that's just a,
Yeah, that was an issue, Cindy, Jim Kraus, Shawnee County Councilor, that we had permitting. We worked that out with the Kansas Department of Labor, but yeah, that would be something we can certainly.
Yeah, that's just something that.
We're past that issue. That was just a part of a new statute, an interpretation disagreement we had, but we've worked that out and wouldn't be an issue with
Because
this.
I just wanted to have them do, put the money towards something like that, and we've already been there and didn't get to do it. So,
We
okay.
can do it. It's just a matter of the process.
I guess, Tim, I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out what the difference between the Lake Shawnee master plan and this market feasibility would be.
Yeah, so first, let me say that I believe that this market study is, we have limited funds. I think this is low priority at this point. So I would not push to move forward with that at this time. The other part is just, the other section of this is a master plan for Lake Shawnee, which I think is new. I don't know that this has been brought up before, or at least not that I'm aware of, but similar to what we want to do to engage, I think this is something we would want to do at Lake Shawnee as well, have a master plan for the park.
okay. All right. So do we want to just eliminate this one and go with,
Yes, we'll eliminate the 42.5.
okay, that doesn't need a motion, does it?
Motion to eliminate 42,500.
Okay, I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. So we'll scratch that one off.
Okay, the next one that has something in 2021 is the Public Works dump truck refresh, showing $300,000 in 21 and 22, $170,552 in 23 and 24, and $170,000 in 25. And some of the cost of this was on their, the Public Works Equipment Fund, the Special Equipment Fund. They had picked up some of it, especially those last few years. But this is the amount that they're asking for out of capital outlay.
What do we have left?
I think we have.
275.
I'm off 25,000. Can we, there's a 25,000 one.
It's probably from the DA's request.
37, yeah, you're right.
And what do we got left? We've got campgrounds, mill and overlay, roof.
Maybe if we can talk to Kurt about the dump truck refresh.
Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. Your questions?
Kurt, we have the Public Works monies that are set aside for equipment purchases. Why is this not included in that, or how is this different than from that? What's the process of this?
Okay. If you could recall, you've discussed it today. Betty talked about it. We have special highway, special bridge, and special machinery. All of those three funds vie for unobligated funds from the previous year. So when those funds are available to us and they're transferred out of the prior year, then Public Works looks at those three funds and we look where we need to put that money. So if $300,000 does not come out of capital outlay, then conceivably that's another $300 that we can't spend on highways or bridges. Does that make sense? And so what I've tried to do is we're trying to budget $650,000 a year on equipment purchases, and historically or traditionally we've kind of funded that half and half between capital outlay and our special machinery fund. So ideally, 350 would come out of special machinery, and then 300 would come out of capital outlay. Last year, we received $200,000, and the year before, we received $302,000. So that I hope that kind of puts it in perspective, Kevin.
It does.
Okay.
Make a motion to have 300,000 for 2021, 300,000 for 2022, 170,552 for 23, 170,552 for 24, 170 for 25, as requested.
Can I make one clarification?
Yes.
Okay. For years 2023, 24, and 25, our request is split between two vehicle types. In 2023, it was, if you look at item 1, it shows up as 38. So the remainder of 300, the difference between 300 and 175.52 would come out of the line, or
36.
38 for 23, and then 36 for line item 36 for 24 and 25.
Right. And so I would include as requested for line 36 and 38.
Thanks.
I'll second.
I think my math is right. I'm sorry, Betty.
Showing for 300,000 a year for 5 years.
Okay.
I'll help.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay, so then on number 36, which is the next one down, for 2024, it would be 129,448. Oh, did you get them? Okay, and then the next year for 25 would be 130,000. Yeah. Okay, good, you got them.
So, could those not just be put into one category and called the equipment refresh? Or is this the right way to do it with having them separated out like that? It seems just a little more confusing when it's, when
Well-
you add them up, it's the same request every year, 300,000.
Yeah, but it tells, I mean, if the public looks at this, it tells them what it's being spent on rather than just equipment.
Okay.
That, we can change it if you would like us to.
No, it's fine either way, whatever you prefer.
There's a
I've made a motion.
and I've seconded it. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
And then approve those other 2 years, I mean, those other 2 items also, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we have campground renovation design services for 50,000.
Tim, is this, isn't this for making accommodations for different types, newer type campers or whatever, bigger campers or something like that? What was the?
Yes, Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation. Yeah, the campground hasn't been updated in some time, and so the connections are old, the spaces are too small for the larger campers that people are using these days, so. And then there's also a lot of amenities that we don't offer that other campgrounds do. Dog parks, we have a playground, but that needs improvement. So there's a lot of things there that need to be done.
All right.
So,
Yes.
this is for design services.
Yeah, so we wanted to come in and basically create a plan to renovate the entire campground
Well,
instead of piecemealing it together.
okay, but do we already know what needs to be done? I mean, it sounds like you've got kind of a plan in your head already.
I think we have a pretty good idea, and so I think I see where you're going.
With
And
that $50,000, we better spent if we just said we'll put in a dog park with it.
I think it's more than a dog park, but yeah, I think that we could do something in-house.
I know that we have 75,000 left, and we had a request for 72,000 for the striping.
You don't have any left. You're at negative
No.
25,000.
Yeah, we're out of money. We're
Problem solved. Sorry, Tim. Well,
Sorry, thank you, Betty.
Sorry.
all right.
You don't have that much money left.
I think we're there.
I missed one number, so.
Yeah, it's,
Okay, let's go over the last 2 that are at least on here for 2021. Parking lot, mill and overlay, and curb gutter replacements. This is a low priority for facilities. 25,000 for the first 2 years, 35, 45, and 75. It's low priority. I would say we
Prefer those.
pass on it. The other one is roof replacement and exterior waterproofing from facilities. There again, low priority, 125, 75, 75, 125, and 250.
Just
Do you guys want me to highlight all of these items to be looked at on Monday?
might look at, I mean, we haven't allocated anything for the sheriff's vehicles or
No.
for striping or
Right.
for the steam trap rebalance, or,
Yeah.
addressing those. And so I am somewhat concerned about the sheriff's vehicles because it can get, that's something that if we're not constantly putting into, can get away from us very quickly.
Right. Yeah, what we can do is highlight all the ones that we have not discussed or not made a decision on, and email you the spreadsheet that you can look at, and you can kind of see here what you have approved, what you have not made a decision on, and then come back to it Monday. Does
And
that
so-
make sense?
At this time, maybe defer any further action until Monday. Jim,
And this
is
will be
that-
our last
is that
piece
how you would prefer it?
of the CIP.
Okay, that'll give us a chance to
So I
kind of
would
look it
make a
over.
motion to defer any further action on the capital improvement plan until Monday, the 27th.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next item.
Executive session?
We do have a need for an executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel, specifically to discuss an open classified position. I don't think it'll take us 5 minutes. No action expected at this time, so.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. We can just run down to my office real quick. We are back in session, no actions taken at this time, so now we're adjourned.
Maybe back at 1, is that, or 1?
Oh, yeah, that's right, for budget, we'll,
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, you could let the